abafuni ukubona shabulile mina nawataleyo akusenkinga ngoba vele abasenzeli lutho mabajala abantu bababheka abantu abayifuni intenhle abakhohlwe bayeke mina ngawe ngiqwele ngisho ubaba nomama angeke bangikhethela ukuthi ngithandane nobani inhliziyo ifuna lo efunayo abangani nabangeke ngamane kuphela umngani inkosi impela wena inhliziyo ifuna lo efunayo funa wena wedwa inhliziyo ifuna lo efunayo.
6 o'clock Central African time. It is a very good morning to you. Welcome to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. And this is where we bring you news and current affairs from the African perspective. We are broadcasting live from our Johannesburg studios in South Africa. My name is Asanda Beda. I'll be riding it solo on this Friday. It is the 10th of October. My colleague Peter will be joining us on Monday again. He's not here. So get in touch with us at Channel Africa 1 is where you can do that. That is our social media handle across all the different platforms. That's where we're also live streaming on YouTube. Also www.channelafrica.co.za is where you can get in touch, as well as SABC Plus app. That's where you can listen to us. And of course, we're going to get into our programming. We are together for the next 3 hours. Let's start, though, first with our news update. And we get this from Onele Nzinzi. And then following her is Musibudi Makura with sports headlines.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda, and a very good morning to our listeners. The Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi has used a speech to an investment forum in Brussels yesterday to publicly appeal to his Rwandan counterpart to help end an insurgency by the M23 rebels, though Kigali accused him of posturing. Mediation efforts by the U.S. and Qatar to end the conflict have encountered setbacks, and fighting continues in eastern Congo, where thousands have been killed this year and hundreds of thousands displaced. Tshisekedi also said Rwanda needed to tell the M23 to stop its military escalation in order to make peace. The M23 staged a lightning offensive this year and now holds more territory than ever in the eastern Congo. South Africa has suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection Shadrack Sibiya says he feels betrayed by his colleagues after police raided Sibiya's home and confiscated laptops and cell phones. The raid comes after he was implicated in both the Madlanga Commission and Parliament's ad hoc committee inquiry into police corruption. Sibiya was addressing the media outside his home in Centurion, south of Pretoria.
I'm not angry, I'm hurt. I feel like Joseph, whose brothers actually threw him in the pit, and they ended up selling him, because I've been working with my colleagues and we've been working very well, but for my colleagues to turn on me the way they turned on me, that's beyond me.
So who betrayed you?
My colleagues betrayed me.
Meanwhile, South Africa's National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola says criminal cartels could be hatching a plan to remove him from office. Masemola is testifying before the ad hoc committee investigating allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference within the criminal justice system. The committee was set up after the allegations made by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Masemola was responding to a question from the committee's evidence leader, Advocate Norman Arendse Senior Counsel, that none of the previous National Police Commissioners finished their terms. He says criminals have no regard whatsoever for the law. The third African Union Studies Annual Symposium enters its second and final day today. The symposium kicked off yesterday with its scholars, policymakers and activists deliberating on the AU's advances in what has been termed the new scramble for Africa. The African Union's role is addressing conflict, advancing reparation and securing Africa's resources sovereignty that has come under the spotlight. Tamo Kapisa reports.
This symposium offers a timely and critical platform to reflect, reimagine, and reposition the AU and its member states in the face of contemporary global disruptions, regional alignments, and internal challenges. Thus, this symposium aims to interrogate the AU's role, responsibly, and potential in responding to the new scramble for Africa.
Lastly, 2 drug inspectors have been suspended in southern India after the deaths of at least 17 children who drank a cough syrup made by a local pharmaceutical firm. The syrup was found to contain the toxic chemical in quantities nearly 500 times above the permissible limit. The Health Minister of Tamil Nadu state said the inspectors were being investigated for the alleged failure to conduct quality checks on the syrup. The BBC's Anbarasan Etirajan.
The owner of the company has been arrested and the firm's manufacturing license has been revoked. Several states in India have advised the public to stop using some brands of cough syrup after they were suspected of containing the toxic chemical diethylene glycol. It can cause serious poisoning, kidney failure, and even death, especially among children. Cough syrups made in India have come under global scrutiny in recent years following a number of deaths linked to the products in other countries.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11714 4459. Channel Africa News. I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Algeria have sealed their return to the FIFA World Cup for the very first time since 2014. And Nadine de Klerk smacked South Africa to a stunning win over India at the ODI Women's World Cup. I'll tell you more at the bottom of the hour.
Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
Right, we get into the segment of the show now that we call the Africa Roundup. This comes after the 6 a.m. news on Rise and Shine. And this is where we bring you up to speed with some stories that are making headlines in our continent as well as around our continent that you may have missed. And also as a throw forward, these stories serve into what could develop in the world of news in this new day. And suppose the weekend, it is Friday. So today we start with Cameroon, where the Cameroonian President Paul Biya is seeking an 8th term in Sunday's election, a victory that could see him remain in office until nearly the age of 100. He faces growing frustration over his decades-long rule and a determined challenge from a former government spokesperson.
Biya won power in 1982 and has comfortably held office since, doing away with the presidential term limit in 2008. His government has denied claims of ballot stuffing and manipulating the courts to sideline opponents. 92-year-old Biya rarely appears in public, with consistent speculation he is in poor health. Maurice Kamto, Biya's top challenger in 2018, has been disqualified this election. The remaining contenders have failed to rally around a unity candidate, boosting the president's victory chances. Issa Chiruma Bakary, a former employment minister who announced he was defecting, is the challenger drawing the biggest crowds. Analysts believe Chiruma might perform well in cities, but would struggle in rural areas, where the ruling party has a strong turnout. 12 candidates are running in the election, and Cameroon does not hold runoffs, meaning the top voter getter on Sunday wins.
At least 13 people have been killed and 16 others injured in shelling at the main hospital in Sudan's besieged city of Al Fasher in North Darfur. A medical source at the Saudi hospital told the BBC the facility was hit several times on Tuesday night, allegedly by paramilitary rapid support forces. The BBC's Richard Kagu reports.
Pictures showed shut windows, cracks from shrapnel, a gaping hole in the mud brick wall, and twisted metal from hospital beds covering the floor. Among the injured are a doctor and a nurse. Their colleagues at the only functioning medical facility in Al Fasher have called the attack a war crime. It's the second strike on the hospital this year. The first in January killed 3 children and injured 3 others.
Motorists in Mali's capital, Bamako, lined up outside fuel stations after several days of closures amid fears of shortages following a blockade on fuel imports imposed last month by Al-Qaeda-linked insurgents. David Doyle reports.
Many stations have been closed for several days or have only been able to supply diesel. The long queues on Wednesday came after the government announced a convoy of fuel tankers had arrived from Ivory Coast, allowing many gas stations to reopen. However, this motorcyclist said he'd been pushing his bike across the city looking for fuel and found nothing.
If the government can find a solution to this problem, we would be very grateful.
Mali has faced instability since 2012, when militants hijacked a Tuareg rebellion in the north. The current military government seized power through coups in 2020 and 2021, promising to improve security, which continues to deteriorate. The JNIM militant group declared the fuel blockade in early September. Less than 2 weeks later, insurgents attacked a convoy of over 100 vehicles under military escort, destroying at least 40 fuel tankers.
And finally, gold prices slipped on Thursday as some investors took profits but stayed above $4,000 per ounce, supported by expectations of U.S. interest rate cuts and ongoing global uncertainties that bolstered demand for the safe haven asset. Silver buoyed at gold's momentum, strong investment interest, and a continuing supply deficit surpassed the $50 per ounce mark for the first time.
The price of bullion, which typically performs well when interest rates are low, has risen by more than 50% in 2025. Investors are flocking to buy it. But what's driving the latest gold rush? Rising interest from investment funds has been a major factor behind bullion's price moves. Sentiments driven by market trends, news and global events can fuel speculative buying or selling of gold. Gold is considered a safe haven, which investors seek out at times of increasing global uncertainty. And there's no shortage of that right now, according to Veronica Brown, Reuters global industry editor for metals and mining.
I think an awful lot of what we're seeing is about fear right now. If you think about gold as a mirror onto the rest of the world, you could really describe it as being the sum of all fears, whether they be geopolitical or economic.
I feel like Chando Goligege there with that final story. I'm sure we'll hear more about that later as it brings us our economics news. And that's how we end this edition on this Friday of Africa Roundup. We'll do this again on Monday after the 6 a.m. news.
Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Property is more than bricks and mortar. It's your pathway to security, growth, and freedom. Let Century 21 property professionals help you make smart moves in today's market. Our award-winning real estate agents combine world-class marketing with local expertise, helping you sell faster, buy smarter, and grow your investments. Visit century21.co.za and let's open the door to your next chapter.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
The United Nations Secretary-General welcomed the announcement of a ceasefire agreement and the release of hostages in Gaza. UN Chief Antonio Guterres commended the diplomatic efforts of the United States, Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey. Overnight, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a breakthrough on the first phase of peace plan, saying the remaining hostages will be released. Israel will also withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable and everlasting peace. Showen Bryce-Peace reports.
The current breakthrough that would see all the hostages released in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners and detainees is significant and could provide much needed momentum towards ending the over 2-year war. Listen to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
I urge all parties to fully abide by the terms of the agreement and to fully embrace the opportunities it presents. All hostages must be released in a dignified manner. A permanent ceasefire must be secured. The bloodshed must stop once and for all. And the United Nations will provide its full support.
The UN has indicated also that it's ready, along with its partners, to scale up humanitarian relief and aid into the enclave, urging full, safe and sustained access for humanitarian workers, the removal of red tape and impediments in getting that aid into the war-ravaged territory, while highlighting the importance of rebuilding Gaza's decimated infrastructure. Guterres further indicated that turning this ceasefire into real progress would need more than just silencing the guns.
For Israelis and Palestinians alike, this deal offers a glimmer of relief. And that glimmer must become the dawn of peace, the beginning of the end of this devastating war. I urge all to seize this momentous opportunity to establish a credible political path forward, a path towards ending the occupation, recognizing the right to self-determination of the Palestinian people and achieving a two-state solution. A path to a just and lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians and to wider peace and security in the Middle East. This breakthrough shows us the power and potential of diplomacy. Let it be a reminder that the solutions to conflicts are not found on the battlefield. They must be forged at the negotiating table.
According to reports out of Israel, the ceasefire could start taking effect within 24 hours after a cabinet meeting endorses the move, while the White House indicated the hostages could start being released by Monday next week. South Africa also welcomed the deal through international relations spokesperson Crispin Piri.
South Africa urges all parties to commit to the steps agreed upon during the negotiations and follow through with a credible and inclusive political process that will ensure an end to the tragic and catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and also to ensure that this process prevents the further loss of lives. We further welcome the announcement of the release of hostages and political prisoners, commend the role played by the guarantor states, and call for the immediate and hindered entry of much-needed humanitarian aid to the besieged Gaza Strip.
Analysts warn that the biggest challenge to securing a lasting ceasefire will be persuading Hamas to disarm. Professor Jonathan Reinhold is head of the Political Science Department at Bar Ilan University in Tel Aviv.
Israel and Hamas have reached this agreement, and most of the credit should go to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. The thing that made the difference was that the president was able to line up not only America's allies in Europe and in the Middle East, but also Qatar and Turkey, who are more ambivalent towards the US and support Hamas. And the fact that he was able to do that and to include the condition that Hamas must disarm, that is what's made the difference. While there's been agreement on the first stage and releasing hostages, the biggest challenge will be getting Hamas to disarm, because without that, we're unlikely to see Israel withdraw fully, and we are unlikely to see international actors put billions of dollars into rebuilding Gaza.
After tens of thousands of lives lost, hundreds of thousands of injuries, a destroyed enclave, and a trauma inflicted on both sides, hope that this moment could shape the trajectory of this conflict and its ultimate demise. I'm Showen Bryce-Peace in New York.
The United States says it remains committed to advancing reliable energy access worldwide Acting Assistant Secretary for the Office of International Affairs, William Tommy Joyce, noted that excessive regulation has hindered nuclear energy development, urging the World Bank and other financial institutions to support funding for nuclear projects. He was speaking at the 4th G20 Energy Transitions Working Group and Energy Transitions Ministerial Meeting in Durban, South Africa. Channel Africa's economics reporter, Innocent Semusa, has more from Durban.
U.S. President Donald Trump has signed 4 executive orders aimed at reviving America's long-awaited nuclear energy agenda. However, supporters see the initiative as a way to reset U.S. leadership in global nuclear technology, countering growing influence from countries like China and Russia. U.S. Acting Assistant Secretary for the Office of International Affairs, William Joyce, says the plan focuses on modernizing nuclear regulations, reactor testing, and the country's industrial base.
Together, they mark a bold new strategy to unleash American energy, strengthen our grid, and reaffirm U.S. leadership in nuclear innovation. President Trump's vision is ambitious and it's achievable. It recognizes that abundant, reliable, and affordable energy is just the foundation of prosperity and peace.
Proponents argue that President Trump's move to revive America's nuclear energy sector is long overdue, a view that Mr. Joyce acknowledged. He notes that excessive regulation has slowed the growth of nuclear energy over the years.
We have over-regulated so much that we haven't been able to produce a nuclear reactor, except for one, in the last 20 years. It's been unbelievably destructive to our economies. In line with the goals of the South Africa G20, we also urge the World Bank and the other international financial institutions to support the financing of nuclear power projects.
In South Africa, some members of parliament have welcomed Joyce's remarks, saying they align with calls to simplify policies that could unlock investment in the sector.
We were quite delighted to see that the USA has taken a very bold move in very openly endorsing nuclear. It has been a stalemate discussion for several years. As you know, we've been pushing for nuclear against all sorts of objections in the, unfortunately, the green lobbyist environment. So when the US now has taken a decision to say they're going the nuclear route, they've convinced the World Bank and they want to work with African countries, particularly South Africa, to revive the nuclear discussion and interest. We do welcome it and we want to see the changes. And we want to see World Bank put its mouth where its money is.
Well, it's about getting the right energy mix for the country in particular and without making hasty decisions insofar as fossil fuels are concerned. However, it is also great that this discussion is taking place at this point in time where it was a no-go area in the past. I mean, people use the boogeyman approach. The minute people mention the nuclear as a possible solution to some of the energy constraints, and I think the fact that South Africa is the only nuclear power country on the continent means that we have a good opportunity now that there's interest in relying and using nuclear for energy.
For the first time this year, in 2025, the World Bank has said it is possible to finance nuclear, and it is encouraging other private sector financiers to finance nuclear projects. Now, that is very encouraging. We said over 10 years ago that the then Minister of Finance, Pravin Gordhan, saying that nuclear is unaffordable and cannot be financed and so on was just a myth.
For decades, nuclear power has provided a reliable low-carbon energy source, yet investment and innovation in the sector have stagnated. It remains to be seen what will come out of these meetings. For Channel Africa News, I'm Innocent Semosa at the 4th G20 Energy Transition Working Group and Energy Transition Ministerial Meeting in Durban, South Africa.
As the world races to cut carbon emissions and embrace renewable energy, coal, one of the oldest fuels, continues to defy predictions of its demise. Global demand hit record highs following the energy uncertainty on the back of Russia's war in Ukraine. The debate over the future of coal took prominence on the second day of the Joburg mining indaba that took place in Johannesburg, South Africa on Wednesday. Timakatso Leshuru attended the event and filed this report.
Coal, the fuel that powered the Industrial Revolution, is still very much alive in the 21st century. And despite decades of climate commitments, coal demand remains high in developing and developed economies. Thungela Resources Chief Executive Moses Madondo told delegates to this year's Joburg Mining Indaba that coal is still central to keeping economies running.
We still believe that coal is required for energy resilience, industrial competitiveness, and importantly, I think this is not said enough, for the long arc of human development, of course. The progress needs to continue, the march to advancement continues, sometimes at a pace that is fast. The truth is the world needs energy, and coal remains the cornerstone to meet that energy demand. It's a fact.
According to the International Energy Agency, global demand for coal increased by 1.5% from 2023 to reach 8.8 billion tons in 2024, the highest in history. Even though Western nations have scaled down, Asian countries, especially China and India, have more than made up for the drop. Last year alone, the two countries accounted for 34 of the 43 new gigawatts of coal-fired capacity built worldwide. Madondo says that tells a story many in the global north don't want to hear.
Read the importance of those statistics in what we should think is what is to come. We know that existing coal-fired power stations, as it is true in South Africa, are staying in service longer than originally planned, and that there's still a lot of new build that's continuing to come into the space, and it's coming at pace in the last few years. So when we look at the global trends, we see that coal continues to have a significant role in developing economies.
The war in Ukraine triggered an unexpected coal comeback in Europe as many nations scrambled for alternatives to Russian gas. Madondo says this was a global wake-up call. He says energy transitions are not events, they are long processes, and that the real focus shouldn't be on eliminating coal but making it cleaner.
We, of course, need carbon capture and storage, and in some cases, utilization of that capture. And we've seen that work really progress immensely. I think China already has 50 of these units. And in the recent history, we've seen the costs, because cost was prohibitive for many times, continue to improve. I think the cost now is reported to be at 50% from when these technologies were being considered and started.
Technologies like carbon capture and storage, CCS, are designed to trap emissions from coal plants and store them underground instead of releasing them into the atmosphere. China now leads the world in developing and deploying such projects, while countries like the United States and Australia are testing similar systems in pilot plants. Chief Executive at Seriti Resources, Mike Teke, has warned against blindly following international pressure to shut down coal operations. This as African countries remain under pressure to switch to cleaner energy, where some say this will come at the cost of economic growth.
Globally, we tend to listen to the dictates of other countries. There was a time in Europe when we were given instructions, sort of, being told that shut these coal-fired power stations, they will give you money to shut them down. And then we follow. Right now, there is net zero asset managers initiative that is saying we're shutting down. Same applies with insurance. On the insurance side, we were told nobody wants to insure you as coal miners. Now, can we talk?
In South Africa, the tension is visible every day. The country still depends on coal for 80% of its electricity, but Eskom's aging plants have been faltering, yet renewable projects aren't expanding fast enough to fill the gap. Menal Group's Chief Marketing Officer, Ruan Northnagel, says the problem isn't just policy, it's infrastructure.
For the last 3 years, no new renewables has been added to the grid, and it's a simple matter of there's no distribution capacity for them. There's no wires. Nedbank says 390 billion rand to build the 14,000 kilometers of distribution wires, okay? Last year we built 35 kilometers.
No, listen, that we are behind, I think that
and
is...
we'll never catch up because we're competing for the same aluminium and copper as the rest of the world to bring their renewable. So it's a massive race for these commodities. If you, look, you should be bullish aluminium and copper, for sure, just basis the energy race going on.
Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe encouraged the miners gathered here, saying there should be more exploration. This is despite the delays from his department in providing operating licenses and the chaos of the cadastral system that miners continue to complain about.
We should be focusing on the value chain of the sector. Exploration is so critical. beneficiation is important. Research and development are quite critical. And if we can do that, we can maintain our competitiveness and drive sustainable growth. There is no shortcut to it.
For Channel Africa News, I'm Dimakatso Leshoro in Johannesburg.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week. Africa. It's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K
or more of our forests have been destroyed.
Tamo ndi
Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. Enjoy the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
At Channel Africa 1 is our handle. That's where you can find us on the different social media platforms of X, of Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. Do get in touch with us with your points and your questions. All right, it's now gone 6:30 Central African time. Let's get our news headlines. Here's Onel Nsinzi.
SABC News headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. The Democratic Republic of Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi has used a speech at an investment forum in Brussels to publicly appeal to the Rwandan counterpart, Paul Kagame, to help end the insurgency by the M23 rebels, though Kigali accused him of posturing. The plane carrying the body of South Africa's ambassador to France, Natim Tetwa, is expected to arrive in the country today. Tetwa's body was found in a Paris hotel's inner courtyard more than a week ago. And Israel says the details of the release of all hostages, dead and alive, alongside its partial withdrawal from Gaza and the release of Palestinian prisoners, have been finalized. This follows a deal between Israel and Hamas. Channel Africa News, I'm Onel Nsinzi.
SABC News headlines. The African perspective.
Time now to check in with the world of sports as we say good morning to Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you so much, Asanda. Very good morning from the sports desk. We'll start with some good news. So Algeria have sealed their return to the FIFA World Cup for the very first time since 2014 after defeating Somalia by 3-0 in Oran on Thursday night, securing top spot in Group G of the African qualifiers. So the result achieved in the penultimate round of the qualifying confirmed the Desert Warriors' fifth appearance at the football's biggest stage and their first in 12 years. Now playing at the Meloud Hadefi Stadium, which served as Somalia's temporary home ground, Algeria made a blistering start to that qualifier last night. The win now takes Algeria's tally to 22 points, which mathematically guarantees qualification to the 2026 World Cup, which will be co-hosted by the USA, Mexico, as well as Canada. Now, the qualification also marks a return to the global stage for a nation that has long been one of Africa's footballing powerhouses. Algeria last appeared at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, where they reached the round of 16 and also famously pushed eventual winners Germany to extra time in the knockout stages of that competition. Back home now, Hugo Bruce, the head coach of South Africa's men's national football team, Bafana Bafana, says tonight's Crunch 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Zimbabwe is the most important game in almost 24 years. Now, this sense of urgency is heightened by Bafana Bafana as they play their penultimate Group C game, currently tied on 14 points with Benin, but behind on goal difference following a 3-point deduction by FIFA. So the last time Bafana Bafana reached the World Cup through qualification was back in 2002 when they qualified for the South Korea and Japan edition. So despite also leading the group for much of the campaign, Bruce believes his team doesn't need any favours, but they still hold their fate in their own hands.
We are all aware that we are playing tomorrow a very important but also a very difficult game. I think this game of tomorrow is maybe one of the most important games of the last 24, 25 years. By victory, we have a big chance to qualify. By defeat, I think, we can stop dreaming. So that means that it's very important, but it will also be difficult. Zimbabwe has always been a very difficult opponent, and it will not be different tomorrow.
On to some cricket news now. Nadine de Klerk hit a blistering unbeaten 84 from 54 balls as South Africa produced a stunning comeback to beat co-hosts India by 3 wickets at the Women's ODI World Cup. So having slipped to 81 for 5 in reply to India's 251 all-out, the Proteas looked destined for a second defeat in 3 games before de Klerk's intervention. So the all-rounder dismantled an increasingly bewildered Indian attack, also launching 5 sixes on her way to her highest international score and the 5th of those blows, sealing the win with about 7 balls to spare. So Captain Laura Wolfart started the South African recovery hitting a patient 70 of 111 balls with her 61-run stand alongside Chloe Traon laying the foundations for de Klerk's late onslaught. Now Traon, who made 49 from 66 balls, put up another 69 with de Klerk in quick time before the latter saw the job through to leave Indian fans as well as players alike wondering just how the game had got away from them. So that result now means South Africa go level on points with India, who miss the chance to go top of the table at Harmanpreet Kaur's side suffer their first defeat at this year's tournament. By the way, India are regarded as favourites to win this year's title. And finally, Ghana's Chief of Staff, Julius Debra, has revealed that the state is putting in place measures to prevent unqualified athletes as well as officials from representing Ghana at the upcoming international sporting events. Now, Ghana is set to begin preparations for the 23rd edition of the Commonwealth Games to be hosted in the city of Glasgow in Scotland next year. So Debra believes Ghana will need to present its best athletes in order now to make a strong showing at these games. Now, speaking after receiving the King's baton, accompanied by a message from the head of Commonwealth, King Charles III, promoting unity as well as clean oceans, he said that the government recognizes that modern sports have become increasingly scientific, requiring comprehensive support system for the athletes. So according to him, while the government will not interfere in the technical selection of the athletes or the coaches, it has a responsibility, though, to ensure that public funds are used efficiently as well as transparently. Just a quick one before I let you go. South African fast bowler Kwena Maphaka has been ruled out of the one-day T20 International against Namibia in Windhoek on Saturday and the White Ball Tour of Pakistan due to a hamstring injury. So the 19-year-old sustained the injury during the Lions' opening 4-day series match against the Western Province at Newland Stadium in Cape Town in the country's Western Cape Province just last week. So he will be sidelined for at least 4 weeks now. Dolphins fast bowler Odniel Bartman will replace Maphaka in the T20 squad, while Azad Williams will be then added to the one-day international squad for the Pakistan series. Well, it's 6:37 a.m. Central African time. That concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour for Channel Africa Sport. I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Siyabangena manje. Vito Jabulani Kolele iMagoda. Jabulani is a young man from Giyani in Limpopo in South Africa. Very easy guy, taking things easy. To know me is to know that I love what I do, which I'm crazy about it. So when you hear me on radio, expect the best. Expect great music. Expect great content. Expect 180 minutes of nothing but fun. You'll find me on the morning reset, 3 to 6 a.m., Monday to Friday. Siyabangena baba. Ay. Mbuleke.
Our G20 fact for this morning is the 19 member countries are divided. No, hang on. We need to get to econ first. Economics news with Chandugoli Gege. Good morning.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Good morning, Asanda, and thank you. A fight is brewing over who controls electricity at local government level in South Africa. The country's local government association, SALGA, has sounded the alarm about a new plan from Eskom called the Proposed Distribution Agency Agreement, saying it looks like a backdoor takeover of the task of municipalities to provide electricity to residents and businesses. SALGA says while it acknowledges the critical need for a stable power supply, the plan in its current form threatens to undermine the constitutional mandate of local government. Nothando Magudulela reports.
SALGA argues that if the plan as it is currently will have far-reaching implications for governance and the economy. It says communities could lose their crucial right to hold their elected municipal leaders accountable for reliable electricity delivery. It also worries that municipalities could face the risk of being stripped of a core developmental function, critically weakening their overall financial sustainability.
South Africa's National Treasury has attracted over 100 global proposals for its $500 million foreign currency financing initiative as it seeks to diversify its funding sources. The initiative, announced in July, aims to explore innovative financing options to raise cash for Africa's most industrialized economy, which go beyond traditional euro bonds. Nhlanhla Mahlangu reports.
Speaking to Reuters, Director of Treasury Funding and Capital Markets, Terry Bumela Msomi, said the market response to their call for proposals has been positive, demonstrating clear appetite for the National Treasury to diversify its foreign currency funding sources. Bomela Msomi noted substantial interest from sell-side as well as buy-side institutions, boutique investment banks, and non-financial lenders eager to lend cash to South Africa's government.
Lesotho's High Commissioner to South Africa, Ntsime Jafeta, has assured Basotho citizens in the diaspora that Lesotho's government is implementing major reforms to make investing in the country easier and safer. Speaking at the Lesotho Diaspora Investment Forum at Gallagher Convention Center in Midrand, north of Johannesburg, Jafeta said the reforms include simplifying investment procedures, enhancing transparency, reducing corruption, and improving the overall business climate.
The government of the Kingdom of Lesotho has undertaken significant reforms to simplify the process of investing in our country. This includes streamlining legal and administrative hurdles, ensuring greater transparency, and making capital flows more accessible.
In other business news, the Democratic Republic of Congo will start building gold reserves. The move comes as the country tries to bolster its currency and lift its economy. Gold prices, which hit record highs above 4,000 an ounce on Wednesday, have surged more than 50% year to date, partly driven by strong central bank buying around the world. Congo has not been holding gold as a stir-off value despite producing sizable quantities of the metal. Google has launched a comprehensive AI platform designed to transform workplace productivity by connecting to company data, workflows, and employees' called Gemini Enterprise. The new platform serves as what Google calls the new front door for AI in the workplace, powered by the company's most advanced Gemini models. The system provides a unified interface that allows employees to interact with company documents, data, and applications through a conversational chat interface. Google Cloud CEO Thomas Kurian says that 65% of Google Cloud customers are already using the company's AI products. Now let's have a look at financial indicators at this hour. $1 in Nigeria is at 1,472 naira. Botswana 13 pula 20. Kenya the dollar is 128 shilling 483. Zambia 23 kwacha 24. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5.35, Russia 81 rubles 26, India 88 rupee 80, China 71.13, South Africa 17 rand 16 cents. $1 is 74 pence to the British pound, 86 to the euro. Commodities, gold is at $3,964, platinum at $1,600 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil, $65.16 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa.
Our G20 fact for this morning is the 19-member countries are divided up into 5 groups, comprising a maximum of 4 countries each. Most of the groups are formed on a regional basis. That is, countries from the same region are usually put in the same group. Only Group 1, which is Australia, Canada, Saudi Arabia and the United States, and Group 2, India, Russia, South Africa and Turkey, do not follow this pattern. Group 3 includes Argentina, Brazil and Mexico. Group 4 includes France, Germany, Italy and the United Kingdom. And Group 5 includes China, Indonesia, Japan and the Republic of Korea. The EU and AU are not members of any of these regional groups. And that's our G20 fact for this morning.
G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa, championing Africa through solidarity, equality, and sustainability.
Every October, World Sight Day reminds the world to protect its vision and care for those who see differently. In South Africa, educational television show Takalani Sesame has turned that message into something even brighter, teaching children that inclusion isn't just a word, it's a way of life. Through characters that speak different languages, some come from different cultures and live with different abilities, Takalani Sesame is showing millions of young viewers that everyone belongs. Over the years, the initiative has impacted lives. And today we chat to Dr. Onyinye Nwarneri, who is Managing Director of Sesame Workshop International South Africa, to reflect on this year's World Sight Day, as well as why it is important that children's programs like Takalani Sesame reflect the diversity and abilities of children across the continent. In marking Takalani's 25th anniversary, our guest, Dr. Nweri, visited one of the show's first visually impaired cast members, Maimuna Kule. Let's now take a look at that episode Maimuna appeared on.
Hi, I'm Moshe.
Hi, I'm Muna.
Beautiful day, ne? Blue skies, eh?
I do not know what blue is. I'm blind.
What does blind mean?
It means when your eyes don't work, you can't see.
You mean you can't see the sky, the sun? You can't even see your friend's face?
No, I see in different ways.
I don't understand.
If you want to have an idea how I see the world, tie this around your eyes.
Okay. Okay. It's dark. I can't see anything.
Hi, guys! Mishi, you've got a scarf around your eyes.
I know.
Can you hold this?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Bye.
Now who was that?
Ha! Easy. That was Neno. I would know his voice anyway. Yeah.
And what did he put in your hands?
It's round. It's a little bit springy. And it's made out of plastic. It's a ball.
Here's someone else. See if you can tell who it is. Blind people don't usually touch other people's faces because it is not polite. But since this is someone you know and a friend, I'm sure she won't mind.
Okay. This is the mouth and and the nose. Okay, let's fill the hair. Ha! It's TD.
Ha, Moshe, how about
I saw you with my fingers. And I saw Neno's voice with my ears. Yeah.
You see, if you can't use your eyes, you use all your other senses to help you see. Your nose, your ears, and even your hands.
Zikwe, is that you?
Mogala makapa. Moshe, o tsebela yuang gore ke nna.
Zikwe, who else in Takalani Sesame smells like motor oil and acha?
Right, as we take a look and a listen on that video there marking Takalani's 25th anniversary, we welcome now Dr. Onyinye Nwaneri, Managing Director of Sesame Workshop International, South Africa. Dr. Nwaneri, good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning to you, Asanda. Wonderful to be here with you this morning.
Thank you, and it's our pleasure to have you. So take us through the journey, Takalani Sesame's journey, as well as what makes it such a powerful tool for teaching children.
So maybe to start off, Takalani Sesame is, I would say, a program of Sesame Workshop International, South Africa. Our mission is to help children everywhere to be smarter, stronger, and kinder. An emphasis on the kinder in this particular context. For the last 25 years, we have focused on helping children to see themselves in languages they understand, with characters that represent what they look like, what they think like, that represent their natural environments. We have also, over the last 25 years, worked with children in the context of family, in the context of schools, and we're now moving into working with children in the context of digital environment so that they are always seeing themselves in the many contexts that they find themselves. Takalani Sesame is about joyful learning. It's about a place of belonging. We've also played a big role when it comes to big topics, whether it is HIV/AIDS, we were able to put forward Kami as the first HIV-positive Muppet, and who was able to have conversation on HIV/AIDS and that it's okay to be HIV-positive, or on disability, inclusion, belonging, or name topics, Ubuntu. Takalani Sesame over the last 25 years has become part of the South Africa's DNA, the South Africa's history, and South Africa's movement that everyone belongs.
Why is it important for children to see diversity on a show like Takalani Sesame? What kind of lead up in terms of the rest of their lives will it get them to?
No, absolutely, Asanda. Children need to, at a very early age, learn to be kind, learn to be empathetic. And as we celebrate World Sight Day, most importantly, understand that everyone is different. Some children are differently abled from them. And so it's important that we as a nation, as parents, as teachers, that we start teaching children the very fundamentals of love, of kindness, of empathy, because that's the foundation of children's learning. In fact, one of the precursors for a child's development between birth and 6 years old, and during this period, 90% of the brain of a child develops from birth to 6 years old. The precursor to everything else, literacy, numeracy, etc., name it, is socio-emotional learning. Children must feel safe to learn. Children must feel that they can learn with each other. So it's really important to emphasize the concept of self-belonging, identity, empathy, kindness, and acceptance.
How has Takalani Sesame evolved to reflect today's South Africa? I think you mentioned an example of a character who is HIV positive and is open about their status.
No, absolutely. We have evolved. We started out, we tackled big issues, really big issues that challenge biases around difficult subjects. That's why we use Muppets as a proxy to have difficult conversations, whether it's Kami who stood up and talked about HIV/AIDS very prominently with big figures across South Africa, including at the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, or our programs that speak about everyone is welcome in Takalani Sesame, everyone special in their own way. Last year, we brought a program that looked at children bonding through play, challenging gender stereotypes, not just disability. We have been here in the last 25 years speaking about big topics across different topics, but also issues. But more importantly, on every platform that children are in. When we say we help children everywhere, we help children everywhere, in school, on platforms like digital, on broadcast, in communities, to understand how they can become, and to understand, and everybody around them, working with them, helping them to be the best they can.
One such big topic is World Sight Day. So how should we be reflecting on this day, or what should we be reflecting on World Sight Day?
On World Sight Day, we need to be reflecting on a number of things as a country. We need to be reflecting on the importance of protecting children who are differently abled, especially blind children. You know, are we conscious of children who are blind? Are we conscious of people who are blind in general, but in particularly children who are blind? But also we need to drive awareness around vision impairments, and as well as awareness around blindness. What can we do to avoid it? But more importantly, like Maimoon would say, that blindness or being differently abled is not limiting. It's just where they find themselves at the time. And as South Africans, we need to be able to accommodate. We need to be able to include. We need to be able to teach our children that everyone belongs and then everyone can be anything they want to be. Look at Maimoon. Maimoon is a social worker today. Maimoon is a celebrity today. Maimoon has found her voice in many spaces. And she said being in Takalani Sesame helped her to find her voice. So it's really about the concept of self and belonging, the concept of accommodation, the concept of inclusion, especially at an early age, but even as adults.
How do you see then a show like Takalani Sesame growing then to accommodate what we could be seeing in the future?
Asanda, that's a very good question. You know, we started out averagely reaching, when we hit our 400,000 mark in terms of reaching children everywhere, we felt we had arrived. But as we speak, we reach an average of 4 million plus children on a monthly basis. And we reach them watching with their children, and averagely on I'm just talking on television, but we are also wherever the children are. So we want to continue to use our platforms, whether those platforms are digital platforms, mobile platforms, in communities, in schools, to be able to spread the message of love and of kindness, of self, of belonging, of accommodation for everyone. And we want to be able to, as Takalani Sesame, hopefully challenge parents challenge educators, challenge the various people who are responsible for systems that enable what I would call Ubuntu, I am because we are, to use it and to use it to speak up. Invite us to whatever you are doing or whatever platform that you use to work with you to speak about helping children and helping South Africans to be smarter, stronger, and kinder, but also to recognize that South Africa belongs to everyone who is in it. And we have a responsibility as a nation to make everyone feel that they fit, feel that they are included, feel that they have a voice.
Dr. Nwaneri, thank you so much again for your time on this Friday.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Onyinye Nwaneri is Managing Director of Sesame Workshop International South Africa, as she was helping us to reflect on Takalani Sesame, that educational television show. It's the 25th anniversary of that, and also linking that to World Sight Day, and how the different topics that are of importance are learned through this television program, especially teaching children from a young age about inclusivity and how that should be a way of life.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
In this coming hour, we look at Cameroon heading to the polls this Sunday, with 92-year-old President Paul Biya seeking an 8th term, and also the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations has unveiled a series of new initiatives to strengthen animal health and promote sustainability in the livestock sector. It's 7 o'clock Central African time. This is Rise and Shine here on Channel Africa. My name is Asanda Beda. We come to you live from our Johannesburg studios via the SABC Plus app, via www.channelafrica.co.za, and via live streaming on YouTube at Channel Africa 1 is our handle there. Let's say good morning to Onele Nzinzi firstly, before we get to those stories and more. She's got our news, and then Musibudi Makura has our sports headlines.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. The Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi has used a speech to an investment forum in Brussels to publicly appeal to his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame to assist him in ending the insurgency by the M23 rebels. Mediation efforts by the US and Qatar to end the conflict have encountered setbacks, and fighting continues in eastern Congo, where thousands have been killed this year and hundreds of thousands displaced. Tshisekedi also said Rwanda needed to tell the M23 to stop its military escalation in order to make peace. The M23 staged a lightning offensive this year and now holds more territory than ever in the eastern Congo. Large crowds clashed with the police yesterday in Madagascar's capital as protests intensify against President Andry Rajoelina. Demonstrators barricaded roads with rocks after calling a general strike to demand his resignation. Police blocked key routes in Antananarivo and arrested several protesters. The demonstrators, mostly young people, have rejected the president's call for dialogue. The plane carrying the body of South Africa's ambassador to France, Nathi Mthethwa, is expected to arrive in the country today. Mthethwa's body was found in a Paris hotel's inner courtyard more than a week ago. He was 58 years of age. President Cyril Ramaphosa has accorded Mthethwa a special official funeral, which will take place in Kwabonambi in the KwaZulu-Natal province on Sunday. Meanwhile, the former police minister Bheki Cele has described the circumstances surrounding Mthethwa's death as suspicious. Cele was speaking at Mthethwa's memorial service in Pinetown yesterday.
I don't believe what they are saying about Nathi and what they say happened. Another problem is that this is my area of expertise. They are saying a lot of things at the same time, things that you can't follow. That's the problem. You can't conclude that a person killed themselves within just 12 hours. At the same time, we are being told that his cell phone was found meters away from him. These are my views.
The Third African Union Studies Annual Symposium enters its second and final day today. The symposium kicked off yesterday with its scholars, policymakers and activists deliberating on the AU's advances and what has been termed the new Scrabble of Africa. The African Union's role in addressing conflict, advancing reparations and securing Africa's resources sovereignty has come under the spotlight. Tamo Kapisa reports.
This symposium offers a timely and critical platform to reflect, reimagine, and reposition the AU and its member states in the face of contemporary global disruptions, regional alignments, and internal challenges. Thus, this symposium aims to interrogate the AU's role, responsibly, and potential in responding to the new scramble for Africa.
And lastly, Israel says the details of the release of all hostages dead and alive, alongside its partial withdrawal from Gaza and the release of Palestinian prisoners, have been finalized. This follows a deal between Israel and Hamas. It follows almost 2 years after the Hamas invasion of Israel, which sparked the war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the deal is in accordance with his country's expectations.
And the central one of these war aims is to return the hostages, all of the hostages, the living and the dead. And we're about to achieve that goal. We couldn't have achieved it without the extraordinary help of President Trump and his team.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, so Algeria returning to the World Cup for the very first time since 2014, while the Protea, the women's side, beat India by 7 wickets in the third match, should I say, of the ICC Women's World Cup. I'll give you more of these stories and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa. Africa, meet Abedi.
Yeah, that's me.
Abedi is a music lover through and through.
I really love African music.
He's got a taste for all kinds of tunes and spends his days listening to Channel Africa. Guess what? He didn't know.
Okay.
Channel Africa wants to help Abedi and all music lovers everywhere to discover even more incredible music. That is why Channel Africa is calling on all African musicians to submit their music. Musicians, remember to give us all your relevant information. Make your submissions at music@channelafrica.co.za. Submissions are your chance to be heard on radio. But sadly, they do not guarantee that you'll be playlisted. All submissions will be carefully reviewed to see if they meet our station's requirement. Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
Annika Londi sur Channel Africa.
Comment est-ce que les militants et sympathisants du parti Les Transformateurs ont-ils réagi face à la condamnation de Succès Masra?
La condamnation de Succès Masra ne nous a pas surpris et les militants transformateurs ont été bouleversés et indignés étant donné que le verdict est un verdict lourd, illégal, injuste et donc face à la répression dans laquelle le peuple tchadien est confronté, les militants transformateurs se sont résignés de ne pouvoir pas sortir manifester. Et donc, c'est une situation totalement absurde pour un pays. Et aujourd'hui, nous célébrons le 11 août, fête de l'indépendance. On pensait que le verdict allait être plus ou moins clément, mais le verdict est sévère.
Annika Londi, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
You can connect with us on Channel Africa and Rise and Shine at Channel Africa 1. That's our handle across our various social media networks That's X, that's Facebook, that's Instagram, that's YouTube, that's TikTok, as well as LinkedIn. Do get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you in terms of your views and your questions that you might have for our different conversations. Let's get into this conversation now, talking about Cameroon. The country heads to the polls this Sunday with the 92-year-old President Paul Biya seeking an 8th term after more than 4 decades in power. His hold on office has long been unshakable, but the opposition remains divided, and questions about electoral fairness and voter security loom large. On the ground in Yaoundé, Channel Africa's Moki Kinzaka reports on the mood among voters and the challenges facing the country ahead of the election. Good morning, Moki. How are you this Friday?
Good morning. I'm well. There's heavy rainfall in Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé, now, but Yaoundé is okay. We are okay too.
All right. So you've been covering the campaign quite closely. We've had some catch-up sessions with you on the show. How are Cameroonians feeling as they head to the polls this Sunday?
In fact, a lot of Cameroonians are feeling very, very disappointed. Disappointed because the candidate of them hope will stand for the elections was disqualified. That is Maurice Kamto, the main opposition leader. That notwithstanding, they have thrown their weight behind some of the candidates. That is who resigned from Biya's government, said he had repented and promised that he's going to save Cameroon, to remove Cameroon from the sufferings Cameroon has been having. He said he was very sorry for everything he did while he served President Biya for about 20 years. So the anxiety is still there amongst a lot of his supporters. Other Cameroonians think that he is not the right person, that they think that nothing will change, that Mr. is going to win the elections. So they are not even thinking of voting. You see, the elections management body, ELECAM, is reporting that so many Cameroonians have not turned out to take their voters' card, which will permit them to vote that day. So it is a mixed reaction along on the streets of Yaoundé of people who are anxious and others are not anxious at all. They think nothing is going to change.
So as you mentioned that Maurice Kamto, one of the main challenges, was disqualified and how that's affected public trust in the election process. Others are mostly saying they don't believe that this election could bring real change and they'd rather not even vote. Is there a sense then that the outcome has already been determined from these elections?
Belief out here is that to win. He is the one who appoints all the members of the elections management body, ELECAM, and some of them are former members of his party. Some of Paul Biya's collaborators are appointed to that organ. You know, this is the 8th mandate Mr. Biya is going to be seeking, and he has won all previous mandates. Even the last mandate in 2018, you know, Kamto said he won, but he was seized by Biya. You know, the belief generally out here is that nothing is going to come out of these elections. Although a few people still think that if they vote and defend their vote, that is, when you vote, you stay at the polling station to make sure the counting is done when you are there, and then you follow the counting, the process right to the divisional control commissions to make sure they don't tamper out the results. Something may change. There are 33,000 polling stations in Cameroon, 33,000 polling stations. And the law says all candidates should be represented at the polling station. There is only one candidate who is represented at the polling station. That is the candidate of Paul Biya. The other parties say they don't have the money to send people to all the polling stations and so on. So you understand that if the other candidates say they can only send people representing, there will be about 23,000 polling stations where it's only the president of the republic who is represented. The opposition is not represented. So people are generally saying nothing will change. Paul Biya is going to win.
Paul Biya recently held his first major rally in Marua, promising to improve security, to tackle youth unemployment and upgrade infrastructure. What was the public's response to that address?
It is the same thing Paul Biya has been saying. That's what the public says. Remember that Paul Biya was, the last time he went to that Marua, which is on Cameroon's far north, in Cameroon's border with Chad. The last time he went to Marua was in 2018 when he went to campaign. When he went there, he promised to to extend the railway from Ngaoundere, a neighboring town, to Chad, passing through Marwa. That has never been done. He never did it. When Mr. Bia also went there, he promised that he was going to improve roads, especially roads linking production basins, so people can transport their livestock and their agricultural produce to the farms. That has not been done. The people complain. So when I was making campaign promises, talking about creating jobs for the road network, talking about a lot of things, people just say is one more promise that is not going to be respected. A lot of people think that Paul Biya has ruined Cameroon's economy. So the population in the far north region, they were even saying it. What is he going to tell us this time again? What is he going to tell us this time again? And of course, he made the promises, and people know, and they're saying they don't trust what Mr. Bia said.
There's been talk of a surge in energy among the women voters and young people who are voters or eligible voters. Is that the case as you see it? And from what you're seeing, could these groups influence the result?
The figures actually increased from about 6 million voters in 2018 when the last elections took place to 8.2 million voters. And the majority of those who increased the population, the number of voters, are youths and women. Now, you're asking why did they decide to register? They decided to register thinking that Maurice Kamto was going to be a candidate. That's the first thing. The second thing, they decided to swell the voters list was because they thought that Paul Biya was not going to run again. That's the second thing. But all of this has not happened. Paul Biya is running, so they are disappointed. Secondly, Maurice Kamto is not there, so they are disappointed. But civil society groups, opposition party leaders have been moving around, even church leaders, pastors, bishops, they have been moving around encouraging the youth that don't be discouraged. Go and vote what your mind tells you, and maybe there's going to be a change. So let's hope there are still 3 days ahead. Sunday is still 2 days ahead. Maybe people will still listen and go out to vote.
With lockdowns in the Anglophone regions and ongoing security concerns, how likely is it that people will be able to vote safely on Sundays, those who go out to vote?
I'm sure people who are listening will be thanking you very much for that question you are asking, because the situation in the northwest and southwest regions, where the Anglophone regions, is very, very, very preoccupying. As we speak, separatists have vowed that no election is going to take place there. And they have kidnapped, they have abducted several people, they have even killed some. They have chased election observers, they have chased the election management body, they have chased government officials from their regions. But the government keep telling them that, you see, on elections day, we are going to protect you. The people are asking, when you protect us, when the military comes and protect us during election day and leaves, what is going to be happening thereafter? We are going to be left here with the rebels, with the terrorists, or with the rebels supporting the Anglophone group. So it is difficult for them to vote. Also remember that in 2018, it was a similar situation. The rebels said no voting is going to take place, and a lot of people were killed because they defied the instructions from voters. It is a similar situation in the far north region where there is Boko Haram insurgency. The Boko Haram fighters have chased many people from their towns and villages, and their towns, and they are in the bushes or in towns far away from their people without documents. They do not even register. There, I can tell you that elections are not going to take place. Also, don't forget that in the eastern region, on Cameroon's border with the Central African Republic, there are also rebel incursions displacing millions of people. And 2 days ago, there was an attack by rebels from the Central African Republic in eastern Cameroon. These are the issues that still make people to think that elections may be held, but they may not be what people thought. Only about 2.7 million voters out of 6 million voted in 2018. It means more than half, more than 55% did not vote. It may be a similar situation this year because nothing has changed yet. There's still a lot of attacks by rebels, still a lot of attacks by terrorists in the far north region, and still a lot of incursions by people fighting for a change in the Central African Republic.
Well, Moki, we'll leave it there for now, and thanks for this update.
We're very grateful, and we're listening to you.
That's Moki Kinzeka, Channel Africa's Yaoundé correspondent, reporting from Cameroon's capital. Cameroon going to vote this Sunday.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. The Midnight Snack, 12 to 3 a.m.
Our fitness coach, her name is Yvonne Dimakato Pasha. How to remain consistent with gyms, Dima, and I'm going to put you on the spot right now. As we are talking, I will send you my picture and I want you to tell me what you think I should work on. Because, you know, when I look at myself, Dima, I think I'm very handsome. I'm so good looking, oh my goodness. Like here at Channel Africa where I work, I think I'm one of the most good-looking people ever. Like sometimes when I look at myself in the mirror, I never get used to how good I look. I'm just amazing.
You're okay with the way you're looking. You wish people could run from and now you want to put me on the spot.
Do I need gym?
Yeah. I mean, if you can just consider eating healthy, cutting down a few foodstuffs such as junk.
The Midnight Snack, every Monday, 12 to 3 a.m. with Chanduko Ligege. A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Chisa Wana Chandugo, one of the most good-looking people at Channel Africa. He's going to be joining us later for our economics news, of course. And he's right. He's a good-looking man. Okay, so let's look at now this particular topic, an important one around mental health. And the world marks Mental Health Day today. The growing prevalence of mental health challenges among students in higher education has become one of the most urgent social and institutional issues of our time. Across South Africa, university students are navigating complex academic, emotional, and financial pressures that can severely impact their well-being, and universities have a duty to be responsive to and address this matter with the urgency it deserves. For more on this issue, we're joined by Dr. Alucia Mabuda, who is head of the Nelson Mandela Bay campus at the IIE Rosebank College. Dr. Mabuda, thank you for joining us. How are you this morning?
I'm good, and yourself? It's Mabunda.
Mabunda. All right. Thanks for that correction. Dr. Mabunda, how critical is mental health support for university students? This is a critical time in one's life.
Look, it is critical, especially if one is to look at it as to what is at stake, because as institutions, we are looking forward to having all our students that are enrolled are firstly completing their qualifications in record time. And as a nation overall, we are expecting that those graduates should be able to be in a good mental state that will also allow them to step into the labor market, and obviously with the broader aim of leading economic growth. So if we have cases that make it impossible for students to complete their studies with us as a result of mental health cases, it has a dire effect not only on the institution, but on the entire nation at large.
Would you say that as it stands, the mental health prevention interventions implemented at different institutions of higher education learning are adequate to support the students there?
Look, definitely the support that is provided is enough. We have Higher Health, which works with all the institutions of higher learning. And for institutions like Rosebank College, we also have on-site wellness managers, which comprises of qualified social workers that are there to attend to the mental needs of students. However, our greatest challenge is accessing those resources. And when I say accessing, it's not that they're not there, but the people who must access them are either derailed or they find it difficult to utilize those services based on judgments and how mental health is viewed by others. So we need to improve access in the sense that our students should be free to actually request such services and not feel like they are some way not okay, or they should be deemed in another manner by fellow students should they determine or find out that they're sourcing such kind of services. We do have adequate support available for our students.
A national study conducted across 17 South African universities found that 37.1% of students met the criteria for anxiety disorders, 16.3% for mood disorders, and 24.4% reported suicidal ideation with the preceding month. Despite this, only about 1 in 5 received treatment. So these are quite alarming figures. And what mechanisms then are needed, Doctor, to put in place to address this particular challenge?
So it's important for universities to integrate mental health into institutional strategy. And it also extends to the allocation of resources such as counseling and support, which are some of the things that I touched on. And more so, it's to train the academics, because these are the people that are in the classroom with the students most of the time. So they must be capacitated to have the skills needed to identify students that may be at risk. And this does not only stretch to lecturers, but even administrative staff that deal with students from time to time. Someone at the front office, perhaps the administrator, may be able to spot a student to say, I have seen the student coming into the institution numerous times, and this is usually the character that they present when they walk in here. However, in the past couple of days, I have been able to notice that there's been a change in terms of behavior or how they conduct themselves. So these things are important. Everyone within the institution must be capacitated and trained so that they know how to identify these kinds of students that need help. Another measure is regular well-being check-ins, and institutions can also then just conduct anonymous mental health surveys to find out what is on the ground, what are the issues that we're dealing with, and constantly have and conduct workshops on stress management, because one of the greatest things that lead to mental health issues is the inability to handle stress, not knowing what to do when things go the other way. Emotional regulation, and just resilience. And so it is important that we are proactive and close off all these gaps, create awareness, train the people, and also get the students to be aware of the services that are being provided.
And I can imagine in handling that stress that a student might be conflicted between, I'm no longer a child, I'm an adult, but I'm not really fully an adult yet, and I need to be able to handle things on my own, or do I handle things on my own? That stage can be quite challenging in that aspect as well. You are of the view that mental health crisis in higher education is both a moral and strategic imperative. Can you elaborate?
So it has to, I think I'll just go back briefly to when I spoke about the overall impact that it has on everyone, be it the institution, be it the country. And we owe it to our students as educators or people in institutions of higher learning, in the sense that all educators have a role which is called the pastoral role or the community engagement role. So it is important to teach or train learners that we know that they are in a good mental state. And therefore, if you are going to engage learners in activities while you can see that at this particular point in time, they are not coping, and you have deadlines that they have to meet without making provision or ensuring that there's flexibility, you sort of like cross the moral boundaries whereby we are sort of like removing humanity and just focusing on the end goal. But the truth is, we will never reach the end goal if we do not make a provision to deal and address with the issues that eventually have an impact on the outcome of what we are teaching as institutions.
Dr. Mabunda, we thank you so much again for your time this morning.
Thank you so much. Have a blessed one, and I wish everyone good health during this key month.
Thank you so much. Dr. Alicia Mabunda, head of the Nelson Mandela Bay campus at the IIE Rosebank College, talking to us about the importance of mental health awareness amongst students in higher learning institutions.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa. Africa. It's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K or more of our forests have been destroyed.
Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. And join the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
Still to come on Rise and Shine, we take a look at some economics across the continent, and we'll be speaking to an analyst there in terms of those stories to look out for in that subject matter. And we'll be looking at livestock of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations having unveiled a series of new initiatives to strengthen animal health and promote sustainability in the livestock sector. Let's get our news headlines, though. Now it's 7:30 Central African Time, and Onele Nzinzi is here to give us those details in just a bit.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
In your headlines this morning, President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, has publicly appealed to his Rwandan counterpart to join hands in ending the uprising by the M23 rebels. Tshisekedi was speaking at an investment forum in Brussels. Large crowds clashed with police yesterday in Madagascar's capital as protests intensify against President Andry Rajoelina. And Israel says the details of the release of all hostages, dead and alive, alongside its partial withdrawal from Gaza and the release of Palestinian prisoners, have been finalized. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
And let's now find out what's happening in the world of sports. Here's Musibudi Makura to bring us up to speed.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Asanda, thank you so much. I will start here. So Egypt have booked their place at the 2026 FIFA World Cup after a dominant 3-0 win over Djibouti, securing top spot in Group A with a game to spare. So the result ensures the Pharaohs return to the global stage after missing out on the 2022 edition in Qatar. It will also be their 4th appearance at the World Cup following campaigns in 1934, 1990 as well as 2018. Egypt's qualification also marks the culmination of a near flawless campaign under coach Hussam Hassan, who has combined defensive discipline with attacking flair. So the Pharaohs have now scored about 19 goals in 9 matches in these qualifiers, with Mohamed Salah also leading from the front with 9 goals. Meanwhile, Algeria have also sealed their return to the FIFA World Cup for the very first time since 2014. This after defeating Somalia by 3-0 in Oran on Thursday, securing top spot in Group G of the the African qualifiers. So the result achieved in the penultimate round of qualifying confirmed the Desert Warriors' fifth appearance at football's biggest stage and their first in 12 years. Playing at the Meloud Hadefi Stadium, which served as Somalia's temporary home ground, Algeria made a blistering start, so that win now takes Algeria's tally to about 22 points, mathematically guaranteeing qualification to next year's World Cup, which is co-hosted by the USA, Mexico, as well as Canada. The qualification also marks a return to the global stage for the nation that has long been seen as one of Africa's footballing powerhouses. Algeria last appeared at a World Cup back in 2014, back in Brazil, where they reached the round of 16 after pushing eventual champions Germany into extra time in the knockout stages of that tournament. Back home now, Hugo Bruce, the head coach of the South African men's national football team Bafana Bafana, says tonight's Crunch 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier against the Warriors of Zimbabwe is their most important game in almost 24 years. The sense of urgency is heightened as Bafana Bafana play their penultimate Group C game that is currently tied on 14 points with Benin, but behind on goal difference following a 3-point deduction by FIFA. So the last time Bafana Bafana reached the World Cup through qualification was back in 2002 when they qualified for the South Korea as well as the Japan edition. So despite leading the group for much of that campaign, Bruce believes that the team doesn't need any favours. They still do hold their fate in their own hands.
We are all aware that we are playing tomorrow a very important but also a very difficult game. I think this game of tomorrow is maybe one of the most important games of the last 24-25 years. By victory we have a big chance to qualify. By a defeat I think we can stop dreaming. So that means that it's very important, but it will also be difficult. Zimbabwe has always been a very difficult opponent, and it will not be different tomorrow.
So Bafana Bafana arrived in Durban in the KwaZulu-Natal province on Thursday morning, having assembled on Sunday and started training in Johannesburg right in the Gauteng province on Monday. So the match is being played at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. It's a home game for Zimbabwe, but essentially a home game for South Africa because Zimbabwe, by the way, do not have the proper infrastructure to host their match in their own country, and that's why they've decided to host this match in South Africa. Bruce says they had a good week of training, and based on what he's seen so far in training, he feels very confident about their chances in a game where it is a must-win for Bafana Bafana.
We believe in it. We are confident. The captain said it already. What I saw the last 3-4 days on training makes me very happy. The boys are very motivated. They also know what an importance the game of tomorrow has. But we are confident that we can do the job. And it's important certainly to win tomorrow. If we win, and God is with us, the last game against Rwanda can be totally different.
And finally, in cricket news, Nadine de Klerk hit a blistering unbeaten 84 from 54 balls as South Africa produced a stunning comeback to beat the co-hosts India by 3 wickets at the Women's World Cup. So having slipped to 81 for the loss of 5 wickets in reply to India's 251 all out, the Proteas looked destined for a second defeat in 3 games before de Klerk's intervention. The all-rounder dismantled an increasingly bewildered Indian attack, launching 5 sixes on her way to her highest international score, the 5th of those blows sealing the win with the 7 balls to spare. Now, Captain Laura Wolfhard started the South African recovery hitting a patient 70 of 111 balls with about a 61-run stand alongside Chloe Traon laying the foundations for de Klerk's late onslaught. Now, Traon, who made 49 of 66 balls, put on another 69 with de Klerk in quick time before the latter saw the job through to leave India fans as well as players alike wondering just how that game got away from them. So that result means South Africa go level on points with India, who missed the chance to go top of the table as India suffer their first defeat, should I say, at this year's tournament. Well, that's a wrap from the sports desk at the Sawa. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, do send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with the final sports update on Africa Rise and Shine in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibu D. Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and the whole country affected by gender-based violence. For all your favorite SABC radio stations, call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
Let's now check in with the world of economics as we say good morning to the handsome Chandu Golikeke. He's got our business news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. Long queues have been snaking around petrol stations in Mali's capital, Bamako, a month after militants from an Al-Qaeda affiliate imposed a fuel blockade by attacking tankers on major highways. Some of the garages which were forced to shut last week have now reopened after more 300 petrol tankers arrived under army escort from Ivory Coast this week. Fuel prices in parts of Bamako have increased by more than 200%. Other cities and areas have also been suffering from such shortages, power cuts and fuel inflation for several weeks. Mali is landlocked, so all fuel supplies are brought into the country by road from neighbors such as Senegal and Ivory Coast. In other news, mining companies and the South African Department of Minerals and Petroleum Resources have been challenged to ensure greater commitment to developing and transforming communities. Community representatives at the 2025 Joburg Mining Indaba have lamented the state of affairs in mining communities and are worried about the move by Anglo American to sell its assets in South Africa. The company is restructuring, having sold off its platinum interest in Valterra and is planning to sell off its stake in diamond producer De Beers as it plans to move into Canada. Boyce Kunopi represents mining communities, families and mining SMMEs in the Gauteng, Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces.
Communities are not getting nothing, and it is the role of the DMR to make sure these things are delivered to the communities and the parliament, and there's no oversight on those things, and that makes things difficult. With communities standing up, trying to correct amongst other issues, they are being defeated. They're expecting that amongst other challenges of environmental will be dealt with.
South African Transport Minister Barbara Creecy says her department will focus on enhancing South Africa's passenger, freight and logistics systems over the next 4 years. She says this will be guided by 6 key targets, which include increasing freight carried on the Transnet network to 250 million tons by 2029. In addition, she says they will boost the aviation industry's contribution to tourism and economic development. They expect 42 million passengers and 1.2 million tons of air freight through the airports company South Africa's network in this period. Creecy was addressing the media during the launch of the October Transport Month campaign in Midrand, Johannesburg.
By the end of May 2025, PRASA had successfully revived 35 out of 40 service lines. It had also achieved an unaudited figure of 77 million passenger journeys, and this year aims to move 116 million passengers. As a result of the very hard work by the Transnet War Room, Rail tonnage increased by 9 million tonnes over the previous financial year.
A fight is brewing over who controls electricity at local government level in South Africa. The country's local government association, SALGA, has sounded the alarm about a new plan from Eskom called the Proposed Distribution Agency Agreement, saying it looks like a backdoor takeover of the task of municipalities to provide electricity to residents and businesses. SALGA says while it acknowledges the critical need for a stable power supply, the plan in its current form threatens to undermine the constitutional mandate of local government. Nothando Magudulela reports.
Salga argues that if the plan as it is currently will have far-reaching implications for governance and the economy. It says communities could lose their crucial right to hold their elected municipal leaders accountable for reliable electricity delivery. It also worries that municipalities could face the risk of being stripped of a core developmental function, critically weakening their overall financial sustainability.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has vowed to do everything possible to counter EU rules banning the sale of new CO2 emitting cars after 2035. The BBC's Anbrasan Ethirajan reports.
After crisis talks with car sector leaders, the German Chancellor said he would advocate that the EU deadline was unrealistic and the industry needed time to discover paths forward with alternative energy sources. The EU policy stipulates zero CO2 emission for all new cars and vans after 2035 as part of its climate goals. Thursday's meeting was organized against the backdrop of falling sales and layoffs at Germany's car giants, which include Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz.
$1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,472 naira, Botswana 13 pula 20. Kenya, the dollar is 128 shilling 483. Zambia 23 kwacha 24. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 35. Russia 81 rubles 26. India 88 rupee 80. China 71 13. South Africa 17 rand 16 cents. $1 is 74 pence to the British pound, 86 to the euro. Commodities, gold is at $3,957, platinum at $1,595 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil at $64.99 a barrel. That is all from me. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
A $116 million tourism investment on the province of KwaZulu-Natal's north coast is set to become South Africa's most expensive resort development to date. The new Club Med South Africa, developed by the Collins Residential Consortium, is more than a leisure destination. It's being positioned as a catalyst for inclusive and sustainable growth. Channel Africa's Lebogang Mabange has more.
Almost 5 decades after Sun City transformed South Africa's tourism landscape, another game changer is emerging on KwaZulu-Natal's north coast. The new Club Med South Africa resort, financed through a partnership led by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking, is being hailed as a model for destination-scale tourism and regional development. Anna Watkinson is the head of global finance for coastal regions at Absa CIB.
This project goes beyond leisure. It's designed as a catalyst for inclusive growth. By embedding local procurement, skills development, and renewable energy solutions, Club Med South Africa creates a sustainable ecosystem that benefits communities long after the resort opens.
She says the value of such projects lies in how they integrate with their surroundings, ensuring benefits flow beyond the resort walls.
It's about integration. When a resort connects to local supply chains, creates permanent jobs, and attracts complementary infrastructure, it transforms into a development asset. The key is aligning private capital with public objectives for shared value.
Watkinson explains that creating confidence for investors requires more than just vision. It depends on regulatory efficiency and collaborative financing models.
Certainty and speed are critical. Streamlined approvals, clear land use frameworks, and blended finance models reduce risk and unlock investor confidence. When policy and capital work together, destination-scale projects become viable.
Institutions like the Industrial Development Corporation have also been key players, providing what Watkinson calls patient capital, funds that allow long-term growth rather than quick returns.
It was pivotal. Institutions like the IDC provided patient capital and credibility, enabling private investors to commit. This partnership model demonstrates how collaboration can de-risk large-scale tourism projects and accelerate delivery.
As the Club Med project takes shape, attention now turns to where the next wave of destination-scale tourism could emerge across South Africa.
South Africa has untapped gems. Think Wild Coast, Garden Route, and parts of Limpopo, to name a few. To unlock them, we need infrastructure readiness, community engagement, and investor-friendly frameworks that balance sustainability with scale.
As South Africa positions itself for tourism-led recovery, the Club Med development is being seen as more than a holiday destination. It's a blueprint for inclusive growth, investor confidence, and sustainable tourism infrastructure. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. Africa, it's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K or more of our forests have been destroyed.
Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. Enjoy the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
It's about 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Let's take a look at this story now around the FAO. So the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations has unveiled a series of new initiatives to strengthen animal health and promote sustainability in the livestock sector. At its second global conference on sustainable livestock transformation held in Rome, FAO brought together governments, farmers, researchers, and industry experts to explore solutions for climate-friendly and resilient livestock systems. To unpack the key outcomes and what they mean for farmers and communities worldwide, we're joined now by Dr. Alejandro Acosta, Policy Officer at FAO's Animal Production and Health Division. Dr. Acosta, thank you for joining us. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me to this interview, and it's a pleasure to be here.
It's our pleasure. Let's start with the big picture. What were some of the main takeaways from FAO's Global Conference on Sustainable Livestock Transformation?
Thank you. Well, it's important to highlight that this conference is happening 2 years after the first conference on sustainable livestock transformation. So it was very important to see what has happened during these 2 years. The first conference was about, trying to capture what was the state of the art, the level of commitments of different countries and stakeholders. This conference, therefore, tried to measure what has been the level of progress in achieving some of those commitments. I will say that the main outcome has been to, start seeing practical changes taking place at national level in order to improve the level of performance and sustainability of livestock production systems.
FAO announced several new initiatives at the conference. Could you tell us more about the One Health Knowledge Hub and the Sustainable Livestock Transformation Innovation Hub and how they'll support countries and farmers?
Yes, well, the Livestock Sustainable Innovation Farm platform is a platform that tries to combine three main aspects. First, data. So it's going to be the very first time that we will be able to articulate different data sets regarding not only animal population, country health status, but also elements related to productivity, socioeconomic indicators, land, water. So this platform plans to use different sources of information to better understand where the sector is, where the sector will be in 30 years, and based on that information, help decision makers to make better informed decisions.
A key focus was making livestock systems more sustainable and climate friendly. What practical steps or innovations are helping to achieve this on the ground?
So here we're working also at three levels. One is innovations trying to improve the level of technological adoption. So building capacity on ways to improve, the adoption of existing technologies. For example, increasing the opportunity to use silvo or agro-silvo pastoral systems. But the focus was more on how to remove the barriers that are limiting the capacity for farmers to use the existing technologies. There are plenty of technologies that could be used to make the livestock sector more friendly. Some of those technologies are based on changing the diet. Other ones are based on improving the managerial capacities to improve the performance of the sector, the quantity of produce more with the same quantity or with less. And the other ones is how we can actually improve the skills of those farmers trying to adopt some of those technologies. So the discussion was around those three main aspects: capacity building, technological adoptions, and removing the barriers to enhance technological adoption and scaling up.
Animal health as well. Let's talk about that, and disease prevention. These remain major concerns. How will the new Global Challenge program for transboundary animal diseases help prevent livestock and livelihoods, or protect them rather, and especially in developing regions?
Thank you. This is a very interesting question because I believe that the purpose of that global conference next year is to better understand that animal diseases are not an isolated aspect. So it's something that is being driven by different microeconomic aspects that are sometimes not even related to livestock production, and also affected by also macroeconomic aspects. So to give an example, very likely the capacity of a farmer to implement a preventive measure might be constrained, for example, for the capacity to having access to credit. So in this global conference, what we are trying to do is to bring together all the stakeholders, all the sectors that might be driven and being affected by those decisions, in this particular case related to the presence of an animal disease or an outbreak.
Let's talk inclusivity as well. The FAO, how is it ensuring that women, the youth, and smallholder farmers are part of this transformation process?
Well, gender and youth are central to FAO development programs and strategies. So what we are doing is trying to ensure that all the programs that we support have a gender and youth lens. To give you an example, when you see what are the main, let's say, capacities or potentials to reduce food insecurity and increase income in some of the African regions, we can see very clearly that some of the target populations are related to women-headed households. So in that regards, what we are trying to do is to put in place processes and strategies that has or incorporates as a main focus of the strategy women and youth populations. At the end of the day, what we are trying here to do is to bring those that are, let's say, that have less capacity to get access to markets or that are facing major constraints, to make them participate better from the opportunities that the economy offers. So what FAO is trying to do in practical terms is to ensure that the programs that we are implemented at the ground level address the specific needs of women and try to listen to the youth, to the voice of youth in how they are seeing the development of the sector in the future.
So, the first ever global conference on One Health in agri-food systems in 2026 is where to next. That's what the FAO is preparing for now. What's the vision behind this, and how does it build on what was achieved in Rome?
Again, the vision here is to understand that the development of the sector, and in particular improving the level of the health status of animal production systems, goes well beyond agriculture and is also related to the way how we understand the negative externalities, for example, in the human sector. So plenty of the, let's say, resources needed to address some of the main issues in agriculture might not necessarily be found in the agricultural sector itself, but might need to come from other sectors, in this case, the public health sector. Also understanding that the environmental health, meaning the transmission, for example, of viruses that are on the wildlife to domestic animals, constitute a major threat, helps the organization to better understand what are those factors driving the emerge of pandemic diseases, for example. So the aim of the conference is to stop looking the sector from a micro lens and trying to understand what are the macro drivers leading to the emerge of pandemic diseases and how to treat them better.
Thank you so much again for your time and your valuable insights, Dr. Acosta.
My pleasure.
Dr. Alejandro Acosta, Policy Officer at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, speaking to us about the outcomes of the FAO's Global Conference on Sustainable Livestock Transformation. From that will be the Global Conference on One Health in Agri-Food Systems. That's going to be held in 2026.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
Well, what a busy weekend it is. Cameroon going to the polls on Sunday to vote for a new president. Whether it's going to be a new president or not remains to be seen, as the incumbent Paul Biya seems to be contesting undefeated or unopposed, really. World Sight Day, of course, it is as well today, and World Mental Health Day. It's a busy one, and we're probably going to have a busier one when it comes to the world of sports. So Musubudi Makura will give us headlines after the news, which is by Onele Nsinsi. It's now 8 o'clock Central African time, and we enter the third and final hour of Rise and Shine. At Channel Africa 1 is where you can connect with us via live streaming on YouTube at www.channelafrica.co.za is also where you can connect, and the SABC Plus app via your mobile phones is where you can listen and watch us. It's Channel Africa. From the African perspective, we come to you. My name is Asanda Beda.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, has publicly appealed to his Rwandan counterpart to join hands in ending the uprising by the M23 rebels. He was speaking at an investment forum in Brussels. Tshisekedi delivered his message to Rwandan President Paul Kagame, saying it's not too late to do things right. Rwanda has denied backing the M23 rebels. However, a group of experts from the United Nations issued a report stating that Kigali exercised command and control over the rebels. Congo and Rwanda signed a peace deal in Washington in June, while Congo and the M23 have participated in multiple rounds of direct talks that were hosted by Doha. Large crowds clashed with police yesterday in Madagascar's capital as protests intensify against President Andry Rajoelina. Demonstrators barricaded roads with rocks after calling a general strike to demand his resignation. Police blocked queue routes in Antananarivo and arrested several protesters. The demonstrators, mostly young people, have rejected the president's call for dialogue. The plane carrying the body of South Africa's ambassador to France, Nathi Mthethwa, is expected to arrive in the country today. Mthethwa's body was found in a Paris hotel's inner courtyard more than a week ago. At the age of 58, President Cyril Ramaphosa has accorded Mthethwa a special official funeral, which will take place in Kwambonambi in the KwaZulu-Natal province on Sunday. Meanwhile, the former police minister Bheki Cele has described the circumstances surrounding Mthethwa's death as suspicious. Cele was speaking at Mthethwa's memorial service in Pinetown.
I don't believe what they are saying about Nathi and what they say happened. Another problem is that this is my area of expertise. They are saying a lot of things at the same time, things that you can't follow. That's the problem. You can't conclude that a person killed themselves within just 12 hours. At the same time, we are being told that his cell phone was found meters away from him. These are my views.
There is no clarity that the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry will resume its public hearings in Pretoria, South Africa on Monday. It is not clear whether Crime Intelligence Chief Dumisani Khumalo will be able to take the stand on the day. He failed to complete his testimony when he fell ill last month. The committee is investigating allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system of the country. Khumalo's testimony was beginning to join the dots on serious allegations against Brown Mkhotsi, an associate of Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. The commission was delving into the motivation behind Mchunu's decision to disband the political killings task team. Israel says the details of the release of all hostages, dead and alive, alongside its partial withdrawal from Gaza and the release of Palestinian prisoners have been finalized. This follows a deal between Israel and Hamas. This follows almost 2 years after the Hamas invasion of Israel, which sparked the war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the deal is in accordance with his country's expectations.
And the central one of these war aims is to return the hostages, all of the hostages, the living and the dead. And we're about to achieve that goal. We couldn't have achieved it without the extraordinary help of President Trump and his team.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Egypt, the latest team to qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, while Novak Djokovic continues at the Shanghai Masters, beating his opponent in 2 straight sets and is into the semi-finals now, looking for a 5th title in Shanghai. More details coming up at the bottom of the hour.
A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
So we were going to take a look at some stories in terms of the world of economics happening in and around our continent with our analyst. We'll move that chat to Monday, so make sure you tune in for that on Rise and Shine. And now we talk about Cameroon as they head toward national elections this Sunday. It's the 12th of October that will be. Tensions are once again rising in the country's English-speaking regions, as we heard earlier, speaking to Moki Kinzeka from Yaoundé there in Cameroon. On the 1st of October, the South self-proclaimed Federal Republic of Ambazonia marked its Independence Day, with Vice President Dabney Yerima declaring that no French-Cameroon elections will take place on Ambazonian soil. He says once those elections are concluded, Ambazonia will seek dialogue with Yaoundé as equals and on neutral ground. But what does this mean for peace in the process thereof? And how united are English-speaking Cameroonians behind the Ambazonian cause? To discuss this and reflect on the significance of Ambazonia's Independence Day ahead of elections, our colleague Peter Ndoro spoke to Mr. Dabney Yerima, who is Vice President of the self-proclaimed Federal Republic of Ambazonia. So Peter began by asking him what October 1st meant.
1st October is our Independence Day because on the 25th of April 1961, the UN granted our independence, which was supposed to go in effect on the 1st of October 1961. But France, the United Kingdom, and the UN, they tricked us into getting independence by joining, which has never happened in the world before. So the option was to join Nigeria or to join French Cameroon. But with our experience in the House of Assembly in Enugu in 1958, when we were being administered by the British, our people chose to join French Cameroon as two states of equal status in a federation. So 1st of October to us is our Independence Day. It's that day that gives us that identity as the Ambazonian people. And it's that day that makes us proud as a people. And I believe that if you saw how our people celebrated this year, it was just wonderful across our territory and also in the diaspora.
You've said that this year's celebrations, this year's commemoration comes at a turning point. What do you mean by that?
It came at a turning point because there are elections that are supposed to take place in the neighboring country closest to us, which is French Cameroon, on the 12th of October this year. So it's on this Sunday. And it's a historic election for that country because even citizens of that country for almost a year now don't even know whether the president exists, who is ruling the country, and they prepared this election. But what we know and understand is elections like this in French Cameroon, the results are always pre-written. So there is no need for an election in that country because how hard the opposition will work. And after the launch, we saw lots and lots of fights with people who wanted to contest as president, like Kamto, with the Electoral Commission. He was refused to participate because they looked at him as the strongest opposition party leader. So there were issues of that nature, but Kamto later on gave in to the regime and he's not participating in the elections. So we've seen other candidates who have emerged. I believe that the regime in power thought that they have the opportunity to maybe accept candidates that they can control, that maybe when Paul Biya rigs the election and is declared president, they are going to succumb or sell the trust of the people for a ministerial position or for any position within the government. So that is why this is a historic, our independence, this is an historic moment that we celebrated our independence because we know that Paul Biya is incompetent to run that country. Paul Biya even was not nominated by members of his party to be their presidential candidate. He just imposed himself as a candidate for life in that party. And you can see some of the militants are going around and campaigning and saying he's their candidate for life. But I believe that it is the Bulu and Beti and Ewondo clan, mafia, that is making sure that he stays in power so that they can continue to run the country, from the background.
You've said that no French Cameroon elections will take place on Ambazonian soil. What does that actually mean practically? Are you going to prevent people from voting if they want to? Or is everyone in Ambazonia not wanting to participate? What do you mean?
I think there are surveys that have been carried out in our territory that people have said they want back their statehood. And our president, Siseko Ayub Tabe, who is serving a life sentence now in the prisons in Kondengi, restored our independence. And our people came out and restored that independence. But what they were met with is helicopter gunshots, from the regime in Yaoundé. And that has resulted to a war of 8 years that is ongoing today, and a genocide that is ongoing in our territory. We continue to insist that there will be no elections in our territory. And if you had covered our territory for the last 1 month, there was civil disobedience. And our people showed patriotism. They showed the world that they have total control of that territory. Even when the elections were launched in Yaoundé, majority of our people did not register to participate in the elections. So they have shown the world we have total control of our territory, and the narrative of one and indivisible Cameroon doesn't hold. Because some presidential candidates like Issa Chiroma, who went to our territory to campaign, he said he had to ask for permission to go into our territory. And he admitted that there is a problem. He was a communication minister of Paul Biya, and he was the one who said there is no problem. As a presidential candidate, he now is the apologetic one who went to our territory and told our people, I asked for permission to come in here, and I'm sorry for what I said, because I was under pressure to say what I said. So even if I've had meetings with parliamentarians or senators in Yaoundé who have categorically said, for the past 8 to 10 years, no elections have taken place in our territory. So Paul Biya always rigs. The results are always pre-written. But this is different because for 1 month now, there have been civil disobedience in our territory, and our people have respected it and told the world that it is time the world listens to the people of Amazonia, because they have control over their territory. And if any election takes place in Amazonia, it will be through invasion, because they will be coming in with their tanks and military hardwares to protect those elites who continue to act as slaves for the regime in Yaoundé. So they'll come. But I mean, voting for a country is your civic duty, and it should not be done with military hardware. But if you see any election that takes place in our territory, you'll find lots and lots of armored cars, military. The territory is already heavily militarized with military, with their gears ready for anything. So that is no elections. You are just imposing your will on the will of the people.
You've raised something quite interesting, and I suppose for some of us on the outside looking in, we often reduce this whole story to Francophone and Anglophone Cameroon. Is it that simple? Are all English-speaking people on one side and French-speaking people on the other?
I will say here that the English-speaking people, most of them, majority, are on the one side. there are certain elites who are working as the slave boys of French Cameroon. And if you could, if you want, I could send you some of their videos that they've put out there in social media, asking even chiefs, even some of our funds, that they've been rendered to nothing because now they've been politicized. And those ones, they have no choice because they are depending on the regime in Yaoundé for their livelihood. And they will tell you that is just my reason being there. It's just for my livelihood that I'm on that side. But majority are determined. And to be on their own, which is Ambazonia, because we have nothing to do. If we are talking to them, we should be talking as equals. We are not talking as a subject to French Cameroon. So our people have made that choice. It's not only today that this started, it's even started since the 60s. And it got amplified in the 80s when SCNC was formed. And then in 2017, the whole, our revolution, the trajectory of our revolution changed to what it is right now. So our people are on our side, they are on their side. And if you have listened to some of their politicians, they've called us 2 cubes of sugars, they've called us dogs, and some have even asked the president to Biya to organize a state of emergency and kill all our liberation volunteers who are fighting to protect our homeland. So we are on our side, but they are imposing the one and indivisible narrative, which is not true. And Paul Biya, during his interview with Mo Ibrahim in Paris, said, we have been trying to assimilate them, but we are not the same people. We have different identity. So we are on our side and they are on their side. And that is why we've said we have nothing to do with their elections that are ongoing. And we will not participate in their elections. Whoever wins, whatever the outcome, we are ready to engage them, not as subjects, but as equals. And we are ready to engage them on a negotiation table, and we're going to look into the root causes of the problems.
Talking about negotiation and engaging, how far are we in terms of peace in Cameroon between Anglophone and Francophone Cameroon and Ambazonia and Cameroon, actually? Is peace a long distance away, or has there been progress over time? Because what we've seen more and more is displacement, and the people in the southern Cameroons struggling.
I think peace is very close. But the problem is the willingness of the Yaoundé regime to be able to come to the table and dialogue with Ambazonia. Well, we were very close in Canada. I think the world knew about the Canadian peace talks a couple of years back. We were very close. The 3 agreements were signed between French Cameroon and Ambazonia, and we agreed on the communication protocol, which was that the government of Canada will come out first to talk about the progress of the pre-talks. But the issue in that pre-talks was the issue of identity. The Cameroonian government was coming into that, to treat the pre-talks as Group A and Group B. We are not B or A, we are a people, and we have an identity. And in that pre-talks, we emphasized, and they agreed, that they will call us the former trust territory of British Southern Cameroons. That was the agreement. It was signed. The Canadian government has those documents. And when we agreed on this communication protocol, It was that Canada was supposed to come out to talk about the success of the pre-talks, then the Vatican, and, and then with other international bodies. When Canada came out, the Vatican also came out. But Canada said there was a mistake in their communique. That was peace talk has gone successfully between French Cameroon and Nozo, which are called the Anglophone regions. So we told them we cannot come out until they correct that mistake, because we have a document that they signed with our identity, the former British Trust Territory of Southern Cameroon. So they used their ambassador in the UN to correct that. And when the ambassador corrected it, we came out and told the world that that had happened in Canada. It was a turn for French Cameroon to come out. It was difficult for them to come because, one, we have an identity which they don't accept that identity. But that is who we are. And it was just one back and forth with the Prime Minister that the president has to give them a permit for them to come out. Can you imagine this? And it took months. We were putting Canada under pressure. What is going on? And they kept telling us they are waiting for the president's approval for Cameroon to come out. But when that approval was given, Emmanuel Sadi, the communication minister of French Cameroon, came out and said they didn't know about any meeting. And this is who are the people who are behind this? Ferdinand Gongo and the Bulu Beti clan that are ruling the country right now indirectly. So they came out, they didn't know about it. The prime minister was so frustrated, and in his frustration, he's still frustrated until today about that. But Canada is willing to go forward. There are other initiatives at the background that they've reached out to us, but what has caused the stalemate and is still causing it is French Cameroon's willingness to come to the negotiation table with Ambazonia. But we are ready at any time. And after the elections, whoever wins, we're ready to engage them.
There are some critics that say that Ambazonian armed groups have at times targeted civilians and deliberately disrupted schooling. How do you respond to that?
There is one thing they have to understand. We are people who are one of the most educated people in Africa, and we know the importance of education. We have never said that our children should not go to school. Our message has been a message of security, that parents should make sure that should they send their children to school, they must be able to study in a secured environment. That is our position. And it has never changed for 8 years now. So there are incidents where people will say, oh, our liberation volunteers stop children from going to school. I want to make it very clear here. There are other militias within our territory sponsored by members in the government of French Cameroon, like Atanganji, who is the territorial affairs minister. They have committed murder in schools. They have killed a lot of innocent people in our territory, and we have all the records. Some of these militias have been arrested by our liberation volunteers. So we keep on telling the world that they should send a fact-finding mission on our territory, because most of the actions that are being committed there, or the crimes against humanity that are being committed there, are being committed by militias sponsored by members of the government in French Cameroon. And our people can testify to that. Yes, you cannot deny some excesses on our part, because as leaders in the front line, we have to educate our liberation volunteers about international humanitarian law. And that is what we are doing. And that is why today you see, they were talking about kidnapping for ransom in our territory. It has been almost eradicated. And our liberation volunteers now are they've gone, they are now mature, they are more experienced, and they are not doing things as usual. So they are carrying out surgical operations against the invading military of French Cameroon. So that narrative is coming from French Cameroon, that our liberation volunteers are fighting against our people. That is not what it is.
As we start to come to the end of our conversation, I am curious, you talk about engagement with Yaoundé after the elections. Has there been any engagement in the interim, and with who? As we know, President Biya is missing in action. Who do you engage with when you engage with Yaoundé? In other words, maybe, who's running the country?
Well, they are political aspirants who are hoping to be president. They've come out with their manifesto on how best they can solve the problems in our territory. We look at this manifesto from the different candidates. I think the most popular right now is Issa Chiroma, that the regime is so afraid of. He was communication minister of Paul Biya. He's had many portfolios in Paul Biya's government, and he understands the in and out of of that regime because he's been in very, very critical positions there. We have looked into their programs and what they are saying. One thing why I cited him was I think he is the only one who has even stood up as a statesman to apologize to the Ambazonian people and said what I did was wrong because I was under pressure. I've hurt you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. We accept that. But when we look at his program, we think that he's very short of many things. So we believe that there's the willingness to dialogue, and in course of the process, we'll be able to talk. He says we have to look into the root causes of the problem. We are willing to go into the root causes, and the decisions of the table should be what will determine the structure of both countries.
Vice
There are
President.
there are some others who are trying to reach to us to try to talk about the future of the state, but our position is clear. We are ready to go to the negotiation table in a neutral ground with international observers who have the muzzle to implement whatever decision that comes out of the table. So we are not interested in fake promises or political positions in that country. We want our homeland to be free.
Vice President Yerima, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us. And we wish you, the people of Ambazonia and Cameroon, a peaceful resolution for both of your futures.
Thank you, Peter, for having me.
That was Mr. Dabney Yerima, Vice President of the self-proclaimed Federal Republic of Ambazonia in Cameroon, in conversation with our very own Peter Ndoro. At just 30 seconds shy of 8:30 Central African Time, let's get our news headlines with Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Cameroon heads to the polls this Sunday with 92-year-old President Paul Biya seeking an 8th term after more than 4 decades in power. The plane carrying the body of South Africa's ambassador to France, Natim Tetwa, is expected to arrive in the country today. Tetwa's body was found in a Paris hotel's inner courtyard more than a week ago under suspicious circumstances. And officials in Ukraine say the capital, Kyiv, came under a major Russian drone and missile attack overnight, targeting the city's energy infrastructure. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Let's find out what's happening in the world of sports. Here's Musibudi Makura with the sports news.
Sports. on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you so much, Asanda. So Egypt have booked their place at the 2026 FIFA World Cup after a dominant 3-0 victory over Djibouti, securing top spot in Group A with a game to spare. So that result ensures the Pharaohs return to the global stage after missing out on the 2022 edition in Qatar. It will also be the fourth appearance at a World Cup following campaigns in 1934, 1990, as well as 2018. So Egypt's qualification marks also the culmination of a near-flawless campaign under coach Hussam Hassan, who has combined defensive discipline with attacking flair. The Pharaohs have scored 19 goals in 9 matches, with Mohamed Salah leading from the front with 9 strikes, having scored those 9 strikes, of course, during the course of these qualifiers. Meanwhile, Hugo Bruce, the head coach of the South African men's national football team Bafana Bafana, says tonight's Crunch 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Zimbabwe is the most important game in almost 24 years. Now, this sense of urgency is heightened as Bafana Bafana play their penultimate Group C game, currently tied on 14 points with Benin, but behind on goal difference following a 3-point deduction by FIFA. So the last time Bafana Bafana reached the World Cup through qualification was back in 2002, when they qualified for the South Korea as well as the Japan edition. Despite leading the group to much of the campaign, Bruce believes that his team doesn't need any favours and that they still hold their fate in their own hands.
We are all aware that we are playing tomorrow a very important but also a very difficult game. I think this game of tomorrow is maybe one of the most important games of the last 24, 25 years. By victory, we have a big chance to qualify. By a defeat, I think, we can stop dreaming. So that means that it's very important, but it will also be difficult. Zimbabwe has always been a very difficult opponent, and it will not be different tomorrow.
So Bafana Bafana arrived in Durban in the KwaZulu-Natal province on Thursday morning, having assembled on Sunday and started training in Johannesburg on Monday. The match is being played at the Moses Mabhida Stadium tonight at 6 p.m. Central African time. So Bruce says they had a good week of training, and based on what he's seen, he feels very confident about their chances in a game that he says it's a must-win.
We believe in it. We are confident. The captain said it already. What I saw the last 3-4 days on training makes me very happy. The boys are very motivated. They also know what an importance the game of tomorrow has. But we are confident that we can do the job. And it's important certainly to win tomorrow. If we win and God is with us, the last game against Rwanda can be totally different.
On to tennis news now, Novak Djokovic remains on course to win a 5th Shanghai Masters title after beating Zezou Bergs 6-3, 7-5 in the quarterfinals yesterday. Now, Djokovic, who has was last crowned Shanghai champion, that was back in 2018, forced the only break of the opening set in the 6th game. So Belgian Bergs saved 5 Djokovic set points on his own serve in the 8th game, only for the Serbian to close out the set in the next game. So 2 match points were saved by Bergs in the 12th game, but it was third time lucky for Djokovic, who closed out the victory after an hour and 52 minutes on court and advanced to the semi-finals against the world number 204, Valentin Vicharot. That match to be played on Saturday. Meanwhile, Iga Swiatek battled her way to a straight sets victory over 13-seed Belinda Bencic at the Wuhan Open on Thursday, coming out top 7-6 and 6-2 in the third round meeting. Now, Switzerland Bencic had to fight back to level from an early 3-love deficit, then broke Swiatek for a second time in the 9th game before serving for the opening set. Now, the second seed Swiatek broke straight back though, and after the next 2 games went on with a serve, dominated the ensuing tiebreak. There was another trade of back-to-back breaks in the early stages of the second set, but Swiatek converted her 3rd break point of the 7th game, then dropped just 1 point over her next 2 service games to wrap up the win. The Pole, who is seeking for a 4th title of 2025, will meet 7-seed Yasmin Paolini in the quarterfinals up next. Well, that's a wrap of your morning sports news right here on Africa Rise and Shine. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, our email address is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with the On the Move team in the next hour for more sporting updates. It's 8:35 a.m. Central African time for Channel Africa Sport. I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et vos 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.
Let's find out what's happening in the world of business. As we say good morning to Chandugoli Gege, he's got our economics news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda, and good morning. Long queues have been snaking around petrol stations in Mali's capital, Bamako, a month after militants from an Al-Qaeda affiliate imposed a fuel blockade by attacking tankers on major highways. Some of the garages which were forced to shut last week have now reopened after more 300 petrol tankers arrived under army escort from Ivory Coast this week. Fuel prices in parts of Bamako have increased by more than 200%. Other cities and areas have also been suffering from such shortages, power cuts and fuel inflation for several weeks. Mali is landlocked, so all fuel supplies are brought into the country by road from neighbors such as Senegal and Ivory Coast. In East Africa, the International Monetary Fund says that a staff visit to Kenya took stock of the latest macroeconomic developments and discussed reforms that could pave the way for a new program. In a statement, the IMF says that policy priorities include measures to enhance fiscal policy credibility and ensure sustainability of public finances and debt. Kenya's $3.6 billion program with the IMF expired earlier this year, and some officials have expressed interest in getting a new one that will include a lending component. Mining companies and the South African Department of Minerals and Petroleum Resources have been challenged to ensure greater commitment to developing and transforming communities. Community representatives at the 2025 Joburg Mining Inda have lamented the state of affairs in mining communities and are worried about the move by Anglo American to sell its assets in South Africa. The company is restructuring, having sold off its platinum interest in Valterra, and is planning to sell off its stake in diamond producer De Beers as it plans to move into Canada. Boyce Kunubi represents mining communities, families and mining SMEs in Gauteng, Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces.
Communities are not getting nothing, and it is the role of the DMR to make sure these things are delivered to the communities and the parliament, and there's no oversight on those things, and that makes things difficult. With communities standing up, trying to correct amongst other issues, they are being defeated. They are expecting that among the challenges of environmental will be dealt with.
Still in South Africa, the Transport Minister Barbara Creecy says her department will focus on enhancing the country's passenger, freight and logistics systems over the next 4 years. She says this will be guided by 6 key targets, which include increasing freight carried on the Transnet network to 250 million tons by 2029. In addition, she says they will boost the aviation industry's contribution to tourism and economic development. They expect 42 million passengers and 1.2 million tons of air freight through the Airports Company, South Africa's network, in this period. Creecy was addressing the media during the launch of the October Transport Month campaign in Midrand, Johannesburg.
By the end of May 2025, PRASA had successfully revived 35 out of 40 service lines. It had also achieved an unaudited figure of 77 million passenger journeys, and this year aims to move 116 million passengers. As a result of the very hard work by the Transnet War Room, rail tonnage increased by 9 million tons over the previous financial year.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has vowed to do everything possible to counter EU rules banning the sale of new CO2 emitting cars after 2035. The BBC's Anbarasan Ethirajan reports.
After crisis talks with car sector leaders, the German Chancellor said he would advocate that the EU deadline was unrealistic and the industry needed time to discover paths forward with alternative energy sources. The EU policy stipulates zero CO2 emission for all new cars and vans after 2035 as part of its climate goals. Thursday's meeting was organized against the backdrop of falling sales and layoffs at Germany's car giants, which include Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz.
$1 in Nigeria is 1,472 naira. In Botswana, 13 pula 20. Kenya, 128 shilling 483. Zambia, 23 kwacha 24. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil, 5 trill 35. Russia 81 rubles 26, India 88 rupee 80, China 71.13, South Africa 17 rand 16 cents. $1 is 74 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Commodities: gold is at $3,957, platinum at $1,595 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil at $64.99 a barrel. That is all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Lesotho's High Commissioner to South Africa, Ambassador Ntsimeja Feta, has called on Basotho abroad to take advantage of new economic opportunities in their home country. Speaking at the Lesotho Diaspora Investment Forum held in Johannesburg, South Africa, Ambassador Jafeta urged delegates to join hands in driving Lesotho's economic transformation by channeling investments and expertise back home. The forum, held under the theme Taking Lesotho to the World Through Investment, sought to mobilize the Basotho diaspora to invest in key sectors and help propel the country's growth. Channel Africa's Michael Mbewe filed this report.
Speaking to delegates, Ambassador Ntsimeja Feta highlighted that Lesotho is entering a new era of economic transformation with growing potential across all economic sectors. He encouraged members of the Basotho diaspora to see themselves as vital partners in shaping the country's development agenda.
Gentlemen, as a country, we are entering a phase of economic transformation with a lot of opportunities in every sector. And we encourage you to seize the opportunity and gain a profitable outcome. Let us embark on this journey together to build a nation that thrives on the collective efforts of its people both at home and abroad. We are keen to work with you to harness your networks in order to channel more investments to Lesotho and create opportunities to move the country forward.
Lesotho's Deputy Principal Secretary in the Foreign Affairs Ministry, Limpo Masilo Mutsamai, praised the fraternal relations between Lesotho and South Africa, its only neighbor, using the diaspora to bridge the gap.
Actually, more than neighbors, because Lesotho does not have any other neighbor. It has only South Africa as its immediate neighbor. So it's very important for us to work together, especially because we have been supplying South Africa with people throughout the journey of the two nations. So we've had miners, we've had so many other different experiences going through the times, and now we are looking also at the professionals within both countries. So our diaspora is the most important part of that. The diaspora is the foundation of our relations, And like I said, for South Africa, Lesotho is its own one neighbor, and beyond the SACU customs union, we go into SADC, and beyond SADC, we go into the whole continent of Africa. And right now, we are all about trade, investment, movement of people and goods, and improving all that for the national interests. And national interest does not just mean for Lesotho, but also for South Africa.
South Africa's Department of International Relations has welcomed the initiative, saying it is ready to collaborate to advance Africa's economic diplomacy agenda. Here is DECO's Head of Operations for African Renaissance and International Cooperation, Lerato Simpo.
We are excited to that. It will also give exposure to also our business sector. So we want to have that discussion. With those discussions, we are coming to say we are ready for partnerships, we are ready for cooperations and collaboration through this ARF fund. And we are saying, as we have these discussions and listen today, one of the key aspects that we want to take away, the High Commissioner spoke about economic transformation. And we are saying in closing as DERCO, we want to make the most with the available resources, which will yield more outputs for the betterment of our people, but also for the betterment of the African continent.
Adding to the spirit of investment promotion, one of the potential investors, Sorab Maskara, CEO of Mahabir Industries, expressed optimism about the prospects Lesotho offers.
We have been extensively dealing with the office of the CEO of LNDC. Primarily, we would like to set up a noodles factory there, something in food processing. We were told that the electricity rates are quite low and stable. The labor is quite affordable, more educated. And they mentioned a few sectors to us which we are looking at. A few of them are call centers, BPOs. There is also potential to set up small power plants like a solar plant which is 4 or 5 megawatt. I know Mauritius is also trying to do that. There is also huge opportunities in tourism. So these are some of the areas we're looking at, and we are discussing with them on what investable projects they have studied which is ready, which we could then go back and look at to see the viability of those.
While expressing enthusiasm about Lesotho's investment potential, Maskara also pointed out a major challenge hindering business growth and mobility across Africa, the visa process. He emphasized that simplifying and modernizing visa systems could significantly boost investment and tourism.
This, unfortunately, is the main sort of like impediment for which Africa is not developing. I mentioned in the forum today when I was interviewed that Turkey, for example, if you process a US visa or a UK visa, you get an online visa in 10 minutes. You just upload your documents. So the High Commission is very friendly. We were just interacting with the ambassador, but they also are tied up as they cannot do the visas directly. It has to happen via the Home Affairs in Lesotho. So there should be a mandate that in 6 hours they process the visas. And if they can turn this whole regime with AI and online, where you set up some criteria, like if you process a South Africa visa or a UK visa or a US visa, they would do this in the same day. And this is what would bring in the tourism that they're looking for.
In response to the visa concerns, the managing director of Lesotho's Competitiveness and Financial Inclusion Project, Chaba Mokoko, explained that the issue is currently being addressed. Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. The 14th Oppenheimer Research Conference is fast approaching. Convened by the Oppenheimer Generation Research and Conservation, it's one of Africa's leading platforms for natural and environmental science, enabling young researchers to mix with experienced trailblazers to help translate their research into real-world solutions. From the 15th to the 17th of October, attendees will discuss topics ranging from land management, biodiversity, to wildlife economies. Channel Africa will broadcast live, spotlighting some of the African voices, shaping meaningful approaches to some of Africa's most pressing challenges.
It's Friday, and on Rise and Shine, we bring you the segment of the show that we call RT Beats. So let's find out what's happening in the world of lifestyle, of entertainment, of the arts, as Nhlanhla Mahlangu brings us to speed.
Welcome
Welcome to this week's African RT Beats exclusive to Channel Africa, The African Perspective. I am Ntlandla Mahlangu. In this week's segment, Botswana's annual Mighty Song Festival underway and a campaign to help preserve South African traditional songs launched. Botswana's capital, Gaborone, is alive with music, arts, poetry, theatre, and arts and craft at the annual Mighty Song Festival. The festival has been running for over 30 years. It is one of the biggest arts festivals in Botswana. Botswana jazz band Grill to Black Collective is amongst the groups performing this weekend. More from band member Laone Tekiso.
Mighty Song is a theater which is in Gaborone, and it was kind of built in 1987. And at the time, it was actually built within a school, a private school in Botswana. And the headmaster there at the time, he wanted to build something that could serve as a community, a hub for the community that promoted the arts and provided a platform for people to, get entertainment and be involved in a cultural space of some sort. And so that's what Mighty Song actually is. And so the first director of the Mighty Song Theater, he kind of is the one who started doing these festivals where it's kind of it's a hub where he brings together a bunch of different acts, from local acts, but from some place from South Africa, musicals. He was a big music guy. And so he actually, for a few years, got sponsored concerts, the festival concert, one big concert that brought an orchestra from Joburg, and they'd actually perform with a bunch of local acts. And so it's a big festival just because it brings together quite a lot of different artists from the local scene, but also from the regional scene. And it also allows Botswana, the locals, to kind of get a real sense of culture and to enjoy just expressions of culture and have a platform where they can watch high quality work.
You are one of the groups that are performing at the festival. What can we expect from your performance?
One is on Friday, October 10th, and the other one is on Sunday, October 12th. And that's actually the last day of the festival, where I believe we're the last show. And so we're a jazz band, and we play a kind of a jazz fusion style of all original compositions. And so we are actually giving two different shows. The one on Friday was going to be one that's made, it's almost like the music is of a storytelling type of format. It's kind of straight, jazz fusion, but the music is very almost through composed in a classical sense, where you go on a journey. It's developmental, and the music is meant to evoke something. By contrast, on Sunday, the music that we're going to play is kind of based on neo soul and R&B and lo-fi hip hop types of sounds. And so, for people who kind of like R&B and that kind of sound, more contemporary flavor, that would be the Sunday show.
Heritage Month in South Africa is a time to celebrate the traditions that connect generations. But in many urban centers, the songs that once carried cultural wisdoms are being heard less and less as ceremonies become rare. Channel Africa's Lebogang Mabange recently attended the Songs to Savor launch, a campaign to help preserve these melodies and make them accessible to a younger generation, and filed this report.
Traditional songs have long been a way to pass on identity and history. Musician and Castle Milk Stout brand advocate Dr. Ntutuko Makatini says the decline of cultural gatherings has left many young adults unprepared to lead ceremonies or even remember the lyrics.
So we created a platform because we believe that these songs are more than just melodies. They are living archives, carrying wisdom, identity, community, and that if these songs are not sung, they will disappear. We also observe that a lot of new adults don't know traditional songs. They don't know the lyrics and the meaning behind these amazing songs. And with this platform, we thought that, here's an opportunity for us to just provide something that new adults can go and seek the knowledge so that they are able to understand, but also express themselves using these songs.
He says the urgency to act comes from the shrinking number of ceremonies where music was once a vital link between elders and the next generation.
As a brand, we feel that there is an urgency to try and preserve these songs. There is a massive concern that traditional songs are fading. If you think about it, we have fewer ceremonies. These ceremonies obviously provide an opportunity to pass down knowledge from elder to the new adult. And because we have less of these ceremonies, we have less opportunities to really express ourselves in these songs.
The Songs to Savor campaign encourages young adults to rediscover songs traditionally performed at weddings, initiations, and family gatherings.
As a brand, we aim to inspire Africans about African traditions and values in the modern world. And we feel that with these songs, we can remind Africans about the importance of understanding where you come from through song, and also the opportunity for us to just pave the way forward for those who come after us.
Songs to Savor is offering South Africans a way to keep their traditions alive, one song at a time. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Celebrities, cultural voices, key media and influencers gathered recently at the iconic Magugu House in Dunkeld, Johannesburg, South Africa, fusing French glamour with bold rhythm and vibrancy of South Africa's lifestyle scene. The celebration featured creative collaborations of music, fashion and culture. Kyla Valiatham, marketing manager at Istropes, says collaborating with Magugu House to bring their first of many celebrations to life was an obvious choice.
Us, we don't chase trends, we set them, and who else does that better than Tebe Magugu? And for us, it's not also just about pairing with any fashion house, but one that really reflects South Africa's modern, innovative design and just a creative flair. And we didn't want to throw a French soiree. We wanted to make it all about the country where what's made the brand successful, which is South Africa. So we really embraced the theme.
That's it from this week's African RT Beats. Until next Friday. For Channel Africa, I am Ntlanhla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Coming up after Rise and Shine is On the Move with Benjamin and Palesa. And Benjamin joining us in studio now to tell us what we can expect on this Friday, the 10th of October. Good morning.
Hey, I'm really loving your Friday look.
Thank you.
I really love these brightly colored earrings that you're wearing.
Yeah.
And do you know that your earrings have a predominant color of African flags?
Yes, I was going to say that. And that's why I chose to wear them.
Okay. I was like,
and
okay.
I've got an African proverb given to us by the Xhosa people.
Love your top as well. Talking about all things culture, well, we're going to start with the conversation of the fact that many African filmmakers are now opting for just posting their work on YouTube.
Okay.
I was actually surprised by that. The big question that I asked, how do they actually create revenue? Because you would think if you have a big film production, you would need someone to buy it, to buy the rights, and also to kind of leverage your production costs. But it seems like a lot of filmmakers on the African continent say, no, we want to maintain control of our content while we also use YouTube as a way of getting access to the market. It's so interesting.
Very interesting. But it makes sense, though. I think YouTube is very popular in terms of, if you think of those who can afford those streaming services and those who can't, YouTube comes in between all of that.
Yes, because it's almost like free, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's going to be our first hour conversation. And then our last hour conversation, we're going to be hanging out with the king of Kwaito, hopefully, Atama Fukate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're going to have him on the line, unfortunately. But I was hoping he'd be coming in studio. But definitely he's working on celebrating his milestone in music. So we'll find out what he's up to.
That's great. Okay, that's On the Move coming up after Rise and Shine. My name is Asanda Beda, and we say goodbye, and we'll catch up with you on Monday, 6 till 9. Stay with Channel Africa as we hand you over now to the news desk. Here's Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Looking at your top stories, Cameroon heads to the polls this Sunday, and Kiev came under a major Russian drone and missile attack overnight. Your latest news. Greetings to our listeners. Cameroon heads to the polls this Sunday with 92-year-old President Paul Biya seeking an 8th term after more than 4 decades in power. His hold on office has long been unshakable, but the opposition remains divided and questions about the electoral fairness and voter security loom large. On the ground in Yaoundé, Channel Africa's Moki Kinzeka reports on the mood amongst voters and the challenges facing the country ahead of the elections.
The figures actually increased from about 6 million voters in 2018 when the last elections took place to 8.2 million voters, and a majority of those who increased the population, the number of voters, are youths and women. They decided to register thinking that Maurice Kamto was going to be a candidate. The second thing they decided to swell the voters list was because they thought that Paul Biya was not going to run again. So they are disappointed. Secondly, Maurice Kamto is not there. Civil society groups, opposition party leaders have been moving around, even church leaders, pastors, bishops, they have been moving around encouraging the youth that don't be discouraged. Go and vote what your mind tells you, and maybe there's going to be a change.
The President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, has publicly appealed to his Rwandan counterpart to join hands in ending the uprising by the M23 rebels. He was speaking at an investment forum in Brussels. Tshisekedi delivered his message to Rwandan President Paul Kagame, saying it's not too late to do things right. Rwanda has denied backing the M23 rebels. However, a group of experts from the United Nations issued a report stating that Kigali exercised command and control over the rebels. Congo and Rwanda signed a peace deal in Washington in June, while Congo and the M23 have participated in multiple rounds of direct talks hosted by Doha. The plane carrying the body of South Africa's